Long Chen, even now, I don't understand how you defeated Luo Tianji, said Yi Lingshan as she looked at Long Chen carefully picking a precious medicine at the edge of a barrier. She was truly puzzled. Long Chen had defeated Luo Tianji far too easily. It was unbelievably easy. It had to be known that she had been driven almost insane by Luo Tianji's ability to predict her moves. That feeling made her want to cough up blood. She felt powerless. Long Chen plucked a small hairy grass. However, its hair was actually tiny thorns. He continued searching as he said, "Originally, I thought that you had experienced about as much as me and wouldn't be so easily conned. It seems I've overestimated you." "Stop spouting nonsense and tell me," said Yi Lingshan. "A magic trick depends on the cover. Have you not seen any magicians performing tricks on the street?" asked Long Chen. "Of course I have, but what does that have to do with Luo Tianji?" demanded Yi Lingshan. "I already said 90% of Heavenly Fate Island's abilities are used for conning people. When he fought with you, he relied on mental warfare, making you befuddled and unable to fight effectively. In truth, all of his abilities were worthless. That ruler of his had memorized the techniques, fighting style, attack angles, and counterattacks used on the continent. The one fighting you was actually the ruler, and the reason he could make you feel powerless is because of this special location that does not permit you to unleash your full power. If you could, he wouldn't have necessarily been a match for you. His trick relies entirely on his divine item. Do you understand?" asked Long Chen. "No." Long Chen looked at her. "I say, you look smart, but you still don't understand? Fine, I'll call you smart. Now stop keeping me in suspense," said Yi Lingshan, rolling her eyes. Long Chen had tiptoed around the answer this whole time, refusing to answer directly, making her teeth itch. Heavenly Fate Island gathered the techniques of all the sects and schools of the martial heaven continent and came up with the most efficient way to counter them. This kind of method is useless for most people because a person can't react that quickly. However, the divine items of Heavenly Fate Island are able to precisely calculate what technique to use. When they see the beginnings of your move, they can see through your technique, and the divine item will come up with the most effective way to counter it instantly. The reason I could break it so easily was because I have two peerless divine abilities that I've perfected, unique to me. His divine item was unable to calculate how to counter my divine abilities. As for Luo Tianji himself, having relied on his ruler for so long, his own reactions are slower than normal people. After spitting at him, he instinctively dodged and then I slapped him, adding a kick to break his third leg. Then he collapsed. Life is just that simple. Long Chen shrugged. Just that simple? Just that simple. Yi Lingshan was surprised, but she also found it funny. Based on what he said, that Luo Tianji was nothing. Her fear for Heavenly Fate Island vanished. Long Chen, you're really smart, praised Yi Lingshan. What did you say? I said you're really smart. Yi Lingshan instantly understood he was playing her based on his smile, and she angrily said, if you want to hear fawning, I'm sure there'll be an endless line of people who will sing your praise. So why bother? That's different. The praise and worship of a beauty, well, that feeling of accomplishment is completely different, chortled Long Chen. No wonder Master told me to be careful of you, saying that your strongest point wasn't your combat power but your pickup arts. I don't know how many beauties you've tricked with this mouth of yours. Yi Lingshan turned her head toward Long Chen. What, the Alliance head? She actually gave me such a high evaluation? Exclaimed Long Chen. How shameless! Yi Lingshan shook her head. Despite knowing he was doing it on purpose, she still couldn't hold back some laughter. Who needs shame? Said Long Chen righteously. Long Chen suddenly bowed ever so slightly while looking solemnly into the distance. What? Are you bowing to your master? Asked Yi Lingshan with surprise. No. I'm paying my respects to the me that had shame and integrity. The day I stepped into the cultivation world, they were buried. After all these years, I don't know how they're doing, sighed Long Chen. Yi Lingshan laughed, never having encountered someone like this in her life. He talked about serious things like they were jokes and jokes like they were serious things. Have you ever been serious in this lifetime? Are you trying to make me laugh my guts out? Demanded Yi Lingshan. Of course I've been serious. When I kill people, I'm always very serious, said Long Chen, suddenly squatting down to pluck another precious medicine. Yi Lingshan put away her smile. I came here because I heard someone say there were countless medicines here. You want to see if there's something that can extend one's longevity? Asked Long Chen, carefully digging out the medicine. Yes, that's my main goal. If the Martial Heaven Alliance can have the 4 Grand Elders supporting it, even if the times become chaotic, the Martial Heaven Alliance won't collapse. But without them, the Martial Heaven Alliance really will have lost its support. Just Master alone can't hold it up, sighed Yi Lingshan. Why are you thinking about your Master first and not you? You are the future Alliance head. This kind of thinking is unacceptable, said Long Chen. Me? That's impossible. I'm a far cry from Master. Yi Lingshan shook her head. What are you lacking? You both have a head on your shoulder, so why is she capable of it but not you? It wasn't as if the Alliance head was born the Alliance head. She also never expected to become the Alliance head. If you are constantly thinking of hiding beneath a big tree's cover, you are looking down on the sword that your master gave you. She has entrusted everything to you. That means she trusts that if she one day disappears from this world, you will pick up her burden. Long Chen's words struck Yi Lingshan deeply. She suddenly understood. The Great Era has come. In truth, this Great Era refers to our generation and most likely only our generation. The Martial Heaven Continent's chi flow has concentrated on our generation. Have you not seen how many Empyreans have appeared in our generation? Even the 4 Grand Elders were just ordinary Empyreans who didn't manage to awaken their manifestations. Even with the Great Era, they are unable to awaken their manifestations. But because this era does not belong to them, they have entrusted all their hopes to us. Why can our generation fight across realms so easily? It isn't because we are so talented but because we were born at the right time. The Great Era's chi flow has descended into our bodies. In other words, the stage will belong to us. You were actually hoping for the Alliance head and the Grand Elders to hold up the sky? How foolish is that? Even if the Grand Elders were in perfect health, they would only be able to support us for a while. When our generation starts to break through to the Life Star realm, their superiority will instantly vanish. So don't place your hopes on others. Think more about how to raise your own power. You've made your choice, so don't abandon it, said Long Chen. The Great Era's descent concentrated its power on only one generation. People who had missed their golden cultivation time were not affected as much. Even if people were unwilling, there was nothing they could do. An ordinary expert who encountered a celestial would have to lower their head. A celestial, no matter what rank they were, would be suppressed by an Empyrean. What would the weak bring out to fight against the strong? People who had missed this era, who were already old, and whose life accomplishments had already been mostly set in stone, were unable to soar like them. As for the junior generation, each day they grew stronger. The world would belong to them in the future. Even if their seniors wanted to push themselves, they were powerless. Seeing Yi Lingshan seem to grow solemn, it seemed she realized just how much pressure she was under. Long Chen stood and patted her on the shoulder. Don't worry. Being a leader isn't as difficult as you imagine. Furthermore, you will definitely be stronger than the Alliance head and more suited for the position. Otherwise, she wouldn't have given you her sword on the very first day. And don't you also have me? I'm also a member of the Martial Heaven Alliance. Whether the leader is the Alliance head or you, no matter what difficulties you encounter, my Dragonblood Legion and I will stand beside you. Thank you. However, I'll work hard to stand by myself. I'll prove to my master that she wasn't wrong. Yi Lingshan took a deep breath. She patted her chest confidently. But next time, don't pat your chest, or the huge waves will make criminals of others, warned Long Chen kindly. Bastard, where do you think you're looking? Shoo, there's something ahead. Long Chen suddenly shushed her. Yi Lingshan thought that Long Chen was once more messing around and trying to change the subject, but she quickly heard strange sounds ahead. Let's go. Long Chen and Yi Lingshan carefully went in the direction of the sound. They didn't even know how many mountains they passed. Suddenly, they saw a giant gate, and seeing the situation in front of him, Yi Lingshan almost let out a startled cry. The reason Yi Lingshan almost shouted was because she saw bloody corpses suspended in midair. Their bodies were naked, their skin stripped, revealing their bloody flesh. Surrounding the gate were countless vines. They were like sinister pythons, just waiting to devour others. Those corpses were like melons growing on the vines. Their blood didn't drip down to the ground. Instead, it flowed up the vines. "This is probably the work of some very powerful tree demons," said Yi Lingshan. Those corpses hanging on the vines all possessed powerful auras. They were clearly Empyreans, but such figures hadn't even managed to escape. From this fact, it could be seen just how powerful these tree demons were. "It's just a display of power." Long Chen looked at the hundreds of corpses strewn across the ground. If these tree demons really wanted to kill people, they should have hidden all this mess and launched a sneak attack. That would be easier. This appearance was clearly a warning. "Let's go." Long Chen pulled Yi Lingshan over. "Wait, don't we need to investigate what's going on?" said Yi Lingshan. "Who has time to investigate? Just charge through. If they dare to block us, we'll kill them," said Long Chen indifferently. When the two of them approached the gate, the vines instantly began to move like vipers woken from a nap. They glared at the two of them menacingly. Long Chen ignored them, continuing forward. When he was just a few miles away, thousands of vines suddenly shot toward him like spears. At the same time, the ground behind them suddenly burst apart, and vines came flying out to surround them. A little tree demon also dares to be arrogant? Today, there is only death for you. If I were to personally fight, it would practically be bullying. Lingshan, you kill it." Long Chen rolled up his sleeves and shouted. "Stop joking. Can you take a look at the situation?" Raged Yi Lingshan. Originally, she had thought that Long Chen would be unleashing some kind of ultimate move to eliminate these vines, but he actually wanted her to fight instead. Yi Lingshan unsheathed her sword, and her manifestation appeared behind her. There was an image vibrating within it, and the sound of a sword came from it. Yi Lingshan's manifestation had also started to awaken. When her sword came out of its sheath, sword chi cut through the void, falling upon the vines. Although blood-colored runes appeared on the vines, they were still severed. As they were cut to pieces, a blood-like fluid splashed out of them. It was like they were bleeding. One of the thorns on the vines stabbed into the ground, piercing straight through it like it was snow. These vines weren't just tough and sharp, but they were also shockingly heavy. It was no wonder those ordinary Empyreans were unable to survive. "Nice." Long Chen cheered on the sidelines. Yi Lingshan was truly powerful. It was just that normally she was a bit hesitant. When she fought, she would immediately become courageous, even a bit domineering. It was just like Chu Jianying's style. "Let's charge our way through. Don't get entangled by them," reminded Long Chen. These vines were just branches from the main body, and they came in a limitless tide. Hence, fighting them was meaningless. The most important thing was to reach the gate. If what's inside is even more dangerous, wouldn't we be throwing ourselves into the trap? Warned Yi Lingshan. Without entering the tiger's den, how do you obtain tiger cubs? "Let's go, riches lie in danger," called Long Chen. Yi Lingshan pressed forward, her sword chi slaughtering the vines. Blood splashed everywhere, and the vines were unable to stop her. They quickly arrived in front of the gate. Suddenly, vines thicker than a house burst forth from around the gate, forming a giant net around it and blocking the two of them. Yi Lingshan's face was cold. Her sword swung, and a sharp aura erupted. A dragon's cry came from her sword. Long Chen was startled. Yi Lingshan truly was powerful, and she hadn't activated her divine item. Instead, she had used some unknown power to seemingly compress her energy before unleashing the attack, bringing forth destructive power. The huge vines were blown apart. Long Chen and Yi Lingshan both shot through the opening, entering the gate. Once they entered, they felt their bodies lighten. It was like they had entered a different world. The spiritual chi in the air was so dense that it almost became liquid. It actually had a buoyant effect on them. They looked around. The huge vines didn't attack any longer. The broken parts on the ground began to heal. Those severed vines regrew, and the bloodstains were absorbed by them again. Everything quickly returned to its original appearance as if nothing had happened. The two of them immediately understood that these vines only attacked those on the outside. Once you passed, you wouldn't be attacked any longer. Heroine Yi is mighty and domineering. Admirable. Long Chen raised a thumb at Yi Lingshan. Yi Lingshan glanced at him before ignoring him. She carefully examined the surroundings. There was a completely straight path before them. At the end of their sight was a mountain range. Those mountains soared into the clouds. Mist revolved around them, making it so they couldn't see them clearly. Following the path, Long Chen suddenly saw something that made him pause. He bent down and picked up a withered branch. There was a mass of dead branches on the ground here. Yi Lingshan said, "These branches look like they're from a willow. They're willow branches. It seems Chu Yao has been here and fought. These branches are cut cleanly, and even the undying qi of the branches has been severed. Since they didn't smash the branches, it means this person has condensed their power to a terrifying level." Whoever fought against Chu Yao didn't waste the slightest bit of energy. Good, it's been a long time since I've encountered the Bloodkill Hall's experts. Let's see what figures the Bloodkill Hall came up with this time. Long Chen smiled coldly. He was almost sure that the one to fight here was an assassin from the Bloodkill Hall. Only they could have such sharp attacks. They continued onward. Long Chen wasn't worried about Chu Yao's safety, as there were no signs of intense battle on the ground. Chu Yao hadn't fought that person for long. She had most likely rushed in deeper in search of treasures. This also meant that the person hadn't posed a fatal threat to Chu Yao, or she wouldn't have pressed forward without doing anything about them. Both of them quickly arrived at the mountain range, and a mountain blocked their path. The path was broken here. Long Chen stopped, summoning a pair of lightning wings. He directly flew up. The mountain peak has been carried away. There was probably some treasure on it. The two of them had just flown over the mountains when they saw that the top was missing a piece. Based on the marks, it had been excavated not long ago. "Lingshan, I'm going to go find Chu Yao. Most of the treasures have been taken by others on this path. We should split up. I'll find Chu Yao, and you search for treasures. Look for places others haven't been," said Long Chen. Although he felt that Chu Yao shouldn't be in any danger, he still wanted to go find her. He didn't want to waste any of Yi Lingshan's time. She was the heir of the Martial Heaven Alliance and had to have powerful karmic luck. Her chances of finding some peerless treasure should be quite high. As for his own luck, he didn't think he had any chances of finding anything. Furthermore, he had to follow the path that Chu Yao had already taken, so they should split up. "All right, be careful." Yi Lingshan nodded. "You're the heir to the Martial Heaven Alliance, so change your attitude of trying not to offend anything. Now you need to consider your actions from the viewpoint of the Martial Heaven Alliance. Whether or not they provoke you, if they are your enemies, you should eliminate them. If anyone wants to fight over treasures with you, then they are trying to hold you back, to weaken you, which is to weaken the Martial Heaven Alliance, stalling its development and throwing it into danger. If the Martial Heaven Alliance is endangered, the lives of billions of the Righteous Path's experts will be threatened, so anyone who dares to fight over treasures with you is an enemy of the Martial Heaven Alliance. Killing them is not wrong, understood?" asked Long Chen. Yi Lingshan had been very righteous while being a loner. Long Chen needed her to be more domineering. "I understand. If not for anything else, just to not disappoint my master, I would fight against the world." Yi Lingshan nodded. "Then that's enough. Go and good luck." Long Chen and Yi Lingshan split up. Long Chen rushed along a path, while Yi Lingshan hesitated before going another direction. Long Chen quickly flew over the mountains. He didn't sense any powerful magical beasts or treasures, but he did see that many of the mountains were gone. They should have just been excavated, but he had no idea what was on them for them to be so valuable. Flying through the air, Long Chen smiled. He could already sense Chu Yao's aura. Having used the wood spirit union with her, their spiritual strength was closely connected. Furthermore, this place was different from the nest of the blue-eye peacock. There was no suppression of spiritual strength, so Long Chen could already get a general sense of Chu Yao's direction. After a while, that feeling grew even clearer. The reason he smiled was because he sensed that Chu Yao had noticed him as well. As expected, after crossing a few more mountains, he saw Chu Yao standing there at the peak of a mountain, looking like a beautiful fairy. Long Chen looked at the smiling and gentle Chu Yao. He spread his arms, embracing her. I missed you. You should be saying you missed all of us. You can't just miss me. Chu Yao also tightly held Long Chen. I missed you all, but I missed you the most. Long Chen smiled. Oof, you're most skilled at deceiving others. Right now, we should hurry and gather treasures. This area has medicinal fields on the outside and a fruit forest on the inside. There are countless precious kinds of fruit. I've already obtained 7 of them. This trip to the yin-yang world wasn't wasted. Chu Yao, pleased as she showed Long Chen her harvest. Damn, silk fig, dark night crabapple, and soul-nourishing star peach? Long Chen was greatly shocked. They were all priceless. Even if they were eaten directly without being refined into pills, their effects were amazing. In particular, that soul-nourishing star peach was top tier. It could constantly nourish the soul and raise the power of a person's spiritual strength. It could also heal damage to the soul. Here, they're all for you. Chu Yao handed them all to Long Chen. These trees had yet to bloom, let alone bear fruit. However, Chu Yao knew Long Chen had a way to make them grow rapidly. It was just that she didn't know of the existence of the primal chaos bead. It wasn't that Long Chen didn't trust them, but he was afraid of infecting them with the karma of knowing this. In any case, they knew he had the ability, and that was enough. Long Chen immediately planted them in the primal chaos space. Where is Lieyun? Asked Long Chen. She went to drive off that irritating fellow. Some fellow from the Blood Kill Hall was here, so she had to hold him back while I searched for treasures, said Chu Yao. Is he very powerful? Tell Lieyun that we can go help eliminate him, said Long Chen. He would cut this fellow who dared to bully his woman to pieces. No need. Suddenly, space shook, and the icy Lieyun appeared before the two of them. That fellow finally lost patience and fucked off. We can look for treasures in peace. Lieyun looked at Long Chen, her face as icy as ever, still having not forgiven him for how he had suppressed her before. Was he very powerful? Asked Long Chen. Chu Yao saw that Lieyun ignored him, and to avoid any awkwardness, she immediately said, that person was very powerful. Most powerful of all were his practically supernatural movement arts and his assassination arts. We had no way to beat him. The only thing we could do was attack him from all sides without leaving a single opening and defend against his assassination attempts. However, there was no way to defeat him like that, so Lieyun stayed behind to hold him back. Lieyun supplemented, he's even stronger than we expected. In truth, he has yet to use 50% of his power. He couldn't find any weakness he could take advantage of, so he didn't go all out. He finally lost his patience and decided that it wasn't worth it. Long Chen nodded. Assassins relied on opportunity. They wanted the biggest gain for the smallest price. If they relied on power to win, then they wouldn't be assassins. It seemed that all the peak heavenly geniuses of the martial heaven continent had gathered in the yin-yang world this time. All the elites of the various powers had come. True Immortal Jiaoqi, Xia Di Feng, Ming Jie, the 4 Fate Princes, and even top experts of the Blood Kill Hall had all come. These were just people that he knew of. Who knew how many nameless figures had come who would emerge as a new force to be reckoned with? The powers of the martial heaven continent all had their own trump cards. They normally wouldn't expose them for nothing, but this opening of the yin-yang world was definitely very enticing, enough for those powers to show the trump cards that they had hidden. Long Chen, did you encounter any powerful experts? Asked Chu Yao. Yes, I ran into a few. Long Chen gave a simple narration of his encounters with true Immortal Jiaoqi, Xia Ming Jie, and the others. He also told her about what Heavenly Fate Island's Luo Tianji had exposed to him so that she would be careful. At the same time, Long Chen was trying to raise the karmic retributions for Heavenly Fate Island. Li Tianxian had said that Heavenly Fate Island couldn't calculate anything about him. If he told Chu Yao about the Fate Princes, logically, it should infect her with a bit of his own karma, increasing the difficulty and consequences of trying to calculate anything about her. Lieyun, you said you felt some kind of summons. Have you found it? Asked Long Chen. It's because of that feeling that we've come here. However, upon reaching here, that feeling disappeared. Lieyun shook her head. Then let's do it this way. We'll advance side by side while searching. I'll take the center, and you two take the sides. We should stay within 100 miles of each other so we can provide assistance if someone finds any big fish. You understand, right? Said Long Chen with an evil smile. I understand. Lieyun was already flying off. Chu Yao couldn't help smiling. Winking at Long Chen, she also flew off. The three of them formed a line as they advanced. The direction was chosen by Chu Yao. When it came to picking anything random, Long Chen always had someone else do it. Damn, Chu Yao's luck really is good. I've already found a heavenly dew cherry. That's a priceless treasure. He had found a little tree emitting a bright light. Mist revolved around it. There was a formation beneath the tree, but that formation was only used to absorb spiritual chi for it. It had no defensive power, so Long Chen directly cut off this part of the mountain and sent it to the primal chaos space. He didn't damage the formation. The primal chaos space's spiritual chi surged toward the tree, nourishing it. In less than an incense stick's worth of time, Long Chen found 3 precious trees just like it. Flowers were about to bloom inside his heart. This was money. In the future, he wouldn't just have plenty of fruit to eat, but he would also be overflowing with money. His business with Zheng Wenlong would be booming. Naturally, he would have to sell the fruit to Zheng Wenlong, or Zheng Wenlong would be offended. In this world, as long as you had money, anything would be easy to do. Looking at the trees growing in the primal chaos space, Long Chen sighed emotionally. The primal chaos bead was truly a cornucopia of wealth. Boom. Suddenly, an explosive sound came from Long Chen's left. We've caught a fish. Long Chen was delighted and immediately shot over. Wooden stakes flew through the air, forming layers of defense in front of Chu Yao. Before her was a 10-meter man wielding a giant hatchet. It went without saying that just based on his size, he had to come from the Xian beasts. Most likely, upon seeing Chu Yao alone, he had directly launched an attack. That Xian beast expert's hatchet repeatedly smashed into Chu Yao's wooden shield. Finally, the wooden shield broke. The Xian beast expert charged through, attacking Chu Yao. His manifestation was at full power and had reached an initial awakening. He was definitely a powerful expert. However, Chu Yao was also powerful. Each wooden shield she summoned required 5 blows from him to break. If it was in a 1-against-1, that Xian beast expert would never be able to get close to her, and with her immense stores of spiritual yuan, she could exhaust 3 of him. This Xian beast expert seemed to be very conceited, and he instantly activated his divine item, unleashing a powerful blow. However, he had just started his attack when a scale-covered hand struck him silently in the face. Without comprehending what had just happened, he was smashed into the ground, his face caving in. It went without saying that the Xian beasts had powerful physical bodies. Long Chen had landed his slap perfectly, and this expert hadn't even been circulating his spiritual yuan in defense, but his physical body was still able to endure it. If it was an ordinary human slapped with such power, they would definitely explode. Earthen bramble thorns. The Xian beast expert was dazed from the slap, and during that moment, Chu Yao activated a powerful attack. Dense thorns shot out of the ground, piercing the Xian beast expert. His body shook before becoming still. Even if he wanted to move, he couldn't. The thorns were growing within his body. In the end, his entire body became wooden. This was the terrifying ability that Chu Yao had gained when her manifestation had started to awaken. Her wooden stakes could cause a person to transform into wood once they were struck, and they couldn't escape. Boom! Suddenly, the hatchet tried to run, but Long Chen slashed Evil Moon down at it, blocking its path. He caught it and tossed it into the primal chaos space. 2 small trees appeared in the air. That was the Xian beast expert's current harvest. Chu Yao had taken them out. He only had these few, said Chu Yao. Just 2 is decent. After all, there's also a divine item. We got it all for free, so let's not care too much about it. Long Chen laughed. There were many things on that expert that were useless to humans. They were only treasures to Xian beasts. Things had ended here before Lieyun even arrived. The three of them continued onward, but now their luck was no longer as good. It seemed that they were crossing areas that others had already passed. He was just about to discuss whether or not they should change direction when the world shook. A beam of light shot into the sky in the distance, illuminating the world. "Let's go take a look." The three of them immediately rushed over to that beam of light. Long Chen, Chu Yao, and Lieyun rushed over in the direction of the light. At this time, Long Chen noticed several other experts flying over as well. In the distance, there were even more people. They were like shooting stars gathering. There are actually so many people here. Chu Yao was startled. A brief examination revealed at least 100 powerful auras. The gate to this place was blocked by those vines. Without the power of an Empyrean whose manifestation had started to awaken, it was almost impossible to charge through it. "If there's a fight, you should focus on protecting yourself." "Leave it to me," said Long Chen. Although Chu Yao was definitely strong, she wasn't vicious enough. As for Lieyun, she was definitely vicious enough, so Long Chen would prefer if the two of them stayed together. This place was different from the outside. Those who could enter here were all experts of a high level. If a fight started, he would be unable to look after others. As they got closer to the light, Long Chen found that this was a new world, a world of immortal light. There was immortal mist filling this area, making it like a wonderland. It was unknown if someone had activated it or if it had activated automatically, but this light was now illuminating this world, drawing over all the experts present. This world of immortal light was filled with mountains and mist. There were trees on the mountains, and their leaves touched with dew. Immense life energy could be sensed even from a great distance. There are definitely treasures inside. A shout rang out as everyone rushed over to it as quickly as possible, as if afraid they would fall behind others. There were already people present within that world of immortal light. There was no danger, so everyone was rushing in as fast as possible. Long Chen also charged into the light. The outer edge of this world of light had no defensive power, so he passed through effortlessly. Once in, a majestic immortal spiritual chi rushed over him. With just a breath, his entire body relaxed. However, at the same time, he noticed that this world was completely different from the world outside. From the outside, this world looked to be less than 10,000 miles wide. Inside, he found that it was many times bigger, and most definitely worthy of being called its own world. Just as he entered, a sharp attack followed him. Courting death. Long Chen snorted. Without looking, he smashed a fist behind him. Boom. Long Chen's fist smashed into a bronze rod, and a powerful chi wave blew Long Chen back a dozen steps. His arm was a bit numb. As for the attacker, he looked at Long Chen with surprise. Just now, he had stealthily activated the power of his divine item, but Long Chen had received it barehanded. "Little ancient race brat, I'll remember you. I don't have time for you now, but later I'll settle our debts." Long Chen swung his arm a few times and shot off, a pair of lightning wings on his back. He had no time to waste. He had to search through this area as fast as possible. It wasn't just Long Chen who was thinking this way. Everyone who entered this world was searching through it without wasting any time. Some people were extremely quick, and they had reached the mountains ahead. As a result, a furious roar suddenly rang out from the closest mountain. A multicolored tiger came flying out of a cave. It's an ancient beast, the cloud-treading sword-teeth tiger. Startled cries rang out. The fastest expert was the unluckiest. By the time he noticed the cloud-treading sword-teeth tiger, it was too late to run. Seeing it bounding at him, he let out a shout. His manifestation appeared behind him, and his sword unleashed a wave of divine power. In the face of this 12th-rank ancient beast, he had no choice but to go all out. Boom. The result was that the cloud-treading sword-teeth tiger's paw slammed into his sword chi, blowing it to pieces. The expert coughed up blood as he flew back. However, that person was truly powerful. Although his attack had been broken, he left a bloody line on the tiger's paw. To receive a 12th-rank magical beast's attack, he had to be very powerful. Hacking up blood, He was almost torn apart by the shockwaves. A 12th rank magical beast's power was not something that he could receive. Blessing his luck at surviving, he fled. However, just as he exhaled, the cloud-treading sword-teeth tiger opened its mouth. A transparent ball shot toward him. Boom! The ball was like a shooting star, giving him no time to dodge. He was blown to pieces, not even his Yuan spirit surviving. The cloud-treading sword-teeth tiger roared. Having been injured, it became even more berserk. It began to attack the other experts. Those experts all fled. However, the cloud-treading sword-teeth tiger was too fast. Opening its mouth, another ball shot out. This time, the ball struck 3 experts. In the face of death, those 3 experts went all out, managing to block its attack. However, they paid an immense price and were sent flying into the distance. Seeing this, everyone else avoided the beast. With so many people, all of them avoiding it, in the end, it would be up to the unlucky fellow to draw its attention. Because Long Chen hadn't been in the first wave to enter, he had time to avoid the cloud-treading sword-teeth tiger. This place's aura is completely different from the outside. Is this the legendary Immortal Chi? Long Chen was shocked by this majestic aura. He had never felt this kind of aura, not even in the spirit world. This aura vaguely felt similar to the spirit world's life god tree, but only ever so slightly. If there's immortal chi, there must be immortal medicines. I have to find them. Long Chen's divine sense suddenly spread in every direction. Courting death. The experts around him felt it, and their own spiritual strength erupted, attacking Long Chen's divine sense. Scram! Long Chen shouted, and his spiritual strength suddenly burst forth. The experts who tried to stop him let out screams, almost falling from the sky. Long Chen's spiritual strength was incredibly powerful, and if he had mastered spiritual attacks, they'd have died. Boom! Long Chen suddenly slashed his saber, cutting across the waist of a mountain. He tossed the portion he had severed into the primal chaos space. He had seen a strange tree that he didn't recognize, but his intuition told him that it was very likely a treasure. He would rather gather it and find out it was trash later on than let it go. He would investigate it later. He had just gathered the mountain when he sensed a sharp sword chi silently stabbing toward him. By the time he sensed it, it was about to pierce his body. "I've been waiting a long time for you, idiot." Long Chen didn't even look back. Evil Moon stabbed toward his attacker just like that. A normal sword was between 3 and 4 feet long. Evil Moon, on the other hand, was 9 feet long. That person would have long since struck by the time his sword reached Long Chen. A clanging sound rang out as Evil Moon stabbed that person's arm. His sleeves were torn apart, revealing a black arm guard. The arm guard managed to block Long Chen's attack, but Long Chen's saber had so much power behind it that it caused his arm to burst open. Blood poured out of it. However, in exchange, his sword stabbed into Long Chen's shoulder. Originally, his sword was aiming for Long Chen's heart. To a cultivator, that might not be fatal, but it would definitely greatly affect their power and reactions. Rather than aiming for the head, which would cause someone to feel mortal danger, aiming for the heart was less likely to raise their guard. So assassins usually targeted the heart first. However, Long Chen's saber was stabbing into his arm, and Long Chen's body also turned. His sword ended up deviating from its original target. His sharp sword pierced Long Chen's shoulder, but after an inch, it couldn't stab in any further. Dragon scales covered Long Chen's shoulder, blocking the majority of the sword's power. The dragon scales were broken now, but strangely, the blood that Long Chen was bleeding out of his shoulder was black. Boom! Light exploded out of Evil Moon, driving that person away. Long Chen suddenly slashed his own shoulder. A hunk of flesh was torn off, and it was already turning black and corroding. This is the part of the Bloodkill Hall that I look down on the most. Even in the secular world, assassins don't put poison on their blades. The reason they're called assassins is because they like the thrill. They rely on their supreme assassination arts that give them the high of dancing on the tip of a blade. But your Bloodkill Hall will sink to such depths. You're not even worthy of being called assassins. Long Chen contemptuously shook his head at that person. The one facing him was a man in a silver mask. He slowly took off his mask with his left hand, revealing a very ordinary face. But his eyes were like a viper's. You don't even know what assassination arts are. Death shouldn't be the same every time. Only various assassination methods are able to diversify this art, he said. Longchen smiled mockingly. Let's not talk about such meaningless things. All I want to know is, what blood kill number are you? This person gave Long Chen a sensation of great pressure. Long Chen even suspected that he was the Bloodkill Hall's strongest assassin. Rumor was that the Bloodkill Hall's strongest assassin was above the number rankings. However, the only one he knew was Dong Mingyu, who had gotten on the Devil Slaughter rankings. That name sounded like it belonged to a woman, so this person should not be her. Bloodkill 1 has been slain by you. A new Bloodkill 1 has already been born, but they are no longer qualified to assassinate you. That's why the mission for your head has been given to us. We belong to the Killing God Hall. I am one of the Killing God Hall's 3 divine emissaries. My name and title is Man Killer. The 3 divine emissaries are ranked Heaven, Earth, and Man, and I am 3rd. I am also the one who will take your life, so remember it, said that assassin of the Bloodkill Hall. Heaven Killer? Earth Killer? Man Killer? Long Chen smiled mockingly. There really is no one that brags like your Bloodkill Hall. If you brag this much, I'll think that you're Dong Mingyu. Why hasn't she come? The assassin shook his head. Someone like you isn't qualified to have the divine daughter personally chosen by the killing god to come kill you. It's the 3 divine emissaries that will take your life. Long Chen looked at him. Pointing at Man Killer's feet, Long Chen shook his head. You're bragging so much, but you've already made preparations to run. You have no intention of fighting with me. Is there a point to your bragging? The space beneath the Bloodkill Hall's assassin was starting to shake. It formed a portal for him. He was ready to run at any moment. The Bloodkill Hall's assassins don't face people head-on. We'll just wait for a chance to kill you in one blow. No matter what time it is, as long as you relax the slightest bit, my sword will summon you to the killing god. Are you trying to play mental warfare with me? If so, you're too immature. When you attack the next time, I'll show you just how laughable your diverse assassination arts are. Long Chen laughed and turned away, leaving. The Bloodkill Hall's assassins were all crafty and slippery. Their fleeing arts were even greater than their assassination arts. If Long Chen tried to fight him head-on, he would immediately slip away. The chances of killing a strong assassin were abysmal. Without catching them, there was no chance. They had their own ways of protecting themselves. Long Chen wanted to see if he could eliminate such a powerful assassin head-on, but he didn't have the time to waste. There were more important things to do here. That assassin didn't stop Long Chen from leaving. With a snort, he vanished into thin air. His movement art was inexplicable. There was no way to track him. Ignoring that so-called divine emissary of the killing god, Long Chen rushed toward the mountain range. More magical beast roars could be heard from within. They were clearly there to defend this place, but the people that had entered were all crazy with greed. These mountains had countless precious medicines growing on them. Someone plucked a fruit and ate it. It instantly dissolved, transforming into blood-colored runes that covered his body. Spiritual chi surged toward him crazily, causing his expression to change. He punched himself in the chest, coughing up a mouthful of blood. The runes on his body faded. However, he was delighted. This fruit was actually able to allow someone to rapidly advance. However, this place was the yin-yang world, and he was already at the peak of soul transformation. He couldn't make his breakthrough here, so he had to forcibly interrupt that fruit's effect. Seeing the people ahead obtain such priceless treasures, everyone was going crazy. They even ignored the terrifying 12th rank magical beasts, charging deeper into the mountain range. Long Chen reached out and grabbed an unremarkable little tree growing out of the cliffside. He also didn't know its name, but his intuition said it was a treasure. He had just gathered it when he saw a python swing its tail like a whip, blowing apart a powerful Empyrean. This dangerous region meant a few unlucky people would be targeted by the 12th rank magical beasts. Even Empyreans with awakening manifestations and divine items were only able to endure 1 or 2 attacks at most before being killed. After killing that person, the python suddenly shot toward Long Chen. "Fuck, all I did was look at you." Long Chen turned and fled. His lightning wings were in full force, and he had no intention of foolishly fighting a 12th rank magical beast directly. The python opened its mouth, shooting out a black runic sword at Long Chen. The huge sword was incredibly powerful, but Long Chen activated the celestial lightning body blink, vanishing and reappearing at the bottom of a distant mountain. He immediately concealed his aura. The runic sword missed. The python lost its target and switched to another direction. Several experts there changed their expressions and immediately fled. Long Chen stealthily climbed the mountain, looking into the distance. He quickly saw Chu Yao's figure, but she was very low-key. She was covered in green mist so others couldn't see her clearly. She was silently profiting. Is that place the core of this world? Long Chen suddenly noticed a pillar of light in the distance. He sensed the air of primal chaos within it. Black and white runes interwove there, causing the world to shake. Within that pillar of light, he could vaguely see a mountain. There was some kind of vegetation growing atop the mountain, one that looked like a flower or a grass but was neither. That vegetation was hundreds of meters tall. It had long leaves falling from it. Each leaf was split evenly in the middle with half being black and half being white. The black was the blackest black, while the white was the purest white. Between the black and white leaves was a large pole. It was covered in black and white marks. At the top of the pole was a sphere several meters thick. It was like a fruit, but this fruit was translucent, and it was sometimes black as night and sometimes white as jade. When it was black, a burst of death energy would surge out, raising people's hair. When it was white, endless life energy would nourish the world, filling it with peace. Intertwining black and white, alternating yin and yang, it was like the world's Daos were contained within its transformations. "Heavens, that's definitely a legendary yin-yang immortal grass," shouted someone. Yin-yang immortal grass. That was something said to be an undying divine medicine that could make a person rise from the dead, transcend reincarnation, and live forever, gaining a lifespan as long as the heavens. However, no one had ever seen it. It was only found in stories and myths. Even any details about it were very vague. Nevertheless, all those legends had one common point. The yin-yang immortal grass possessed alternating yin-yang energy that could topple the world. If anyone could obtain it, they could control the cycle of life and death, becoming the ruler of a world. Of course, as soon as someone shouted the name of the yin-yang immortal grass, everyone's eyes became crazy with greed. That was something that contained the power to control the world, and whoever possessed it could dominate everyone else. Even Long Chen was unable to stay calm. This strange plant truly did look similar to the yin-yang immortal grass of legends. "Charge!" People roared, charging straight toward that pillar of light, not even bothering to search through the mountains any longer. "Long Chen," Lieyun said that there's something within the light pillar that she needs. Chu Yao's voice rang out in Long Chen's head. "She wants the yin-yang immortal grass?" "No, there's a divine pool beneath it. That place is where all the essence is gathered," said Chu Yao. Long Chen looked carefully. Only now did he notice that the yin-yang immortal grass had taken root in a divine pool. The divine pool was turbid with the air of primal chaos. It had strange fluctuations. This was definitely a place set up to nourish the yin-yang immortal grass. "Should we charge in?" asked Chu Yao. "No, things aren't so simple. I keep feeling like something is off. We should be more cautious than these people," warned Long Chen. This place was too strange. He was feeling a vague sense of unease. Just at this moment, the first Empyrean managed to reach the pillar of light. He slashed his divine item into it. A slight ripple came from the pillar of light. Black chi surged out of the ripple. "Get back!" One of his friends shouted at him. However, it was too late. His divine item instantly turned black, following which his entire body also turned black. Then he slowly dissipated like dust. Even his divine item blew away in pieces. All the experts were dumbfounded. A powerful Empyrean had been turned to dust along with his divine item by the light barrier. He silently disappeared from this world. That was even more frightening than being blown to bits. That was especially true when it came to his divine item, which also turned to dust without being able to resist in the slightest. That's definitely the yin-yang immortal grass. Only the power of the immortal Tao could so easily destroy a divine item, shouted someone. Divine items were the apex weapons on the martial heaven continent. However, in front of that light barrier, it was silently turned into nothingness. That kind of power was definitely not something anything in the mortal world could do. Just as everyone paused in front of the light barrier, the magical beasts chasing them didn't pause. They charged over, immediately causing chaos. People didn't know whether they should charge through or run. Charge through? They didn't dare. After all, that person's overconfidence had cost him his life. However, they were also unwilling to leave just like that. That was the yin-yang immortal grass. If they could obtain it, the martial heaven continent would be theirs. Everyone, ignore the yin-yang immortal grass for now. We should first join forces to kill these magical beasts, or no one will benefit in the end, shouted a man in fiery red robes. This person was tall, but he didn't look particularly outstanding. However, his blood-red pupils contained dancing flame runes. His robes had a clear flame image on them, showing that he was from Pill Valley's Flame Divine Palace. As soon as he spoke, all the experts, whether they were from the Righteous Path, Corrupt Path, Ancient Races, Shen Beasts, or Ancient Family Alliance, joined hands to fight off the 12th rank magical beasts. 10 people should surround each beast. Focus on their vitals and don't hold back, shouted the expert from Pill Valley's Flame Divine Palace, taking the lead in attacking one of the 12th rank magical beasts. He held a flame spear. The blood-red spear stabbed forward, and its power shattered the surrounding mountains. The earth collapsed. He was an extremely terrifying expert. The tiger magical beast he was facing was pierced in the abdomen, and blood-red flames enveloped the entire magical beast. It was heavily injured from just one exchange. Seeing this, the others attacked. Over 10 Empyreans with manifestations starting to awaken activated their divine items at once. Even this 12th rank magical beast wasn't able to endure it all and was slain in an instant. Beside them, another magical beast was slain. The other experts were imitating their kill, slaughtering the magical beasts. Only by working together could they avoid getting killed in one blow. Long Chen, what should we do? Asked Chu Yao, standing in the distance. She was still doing as Long Chen said, and acting like she didn't know Long Chen. If she didn't, the crowd might attack her. You should help them too, or it will be too conspicuous. However, be careful, and don't let people recognize you. I'll investigate this light barrier, said Long Chen. Chu Yao nodded. Extending her arm, a snake bone whip appeared in her hand. She joined the fray, but she was clearly not putting in any effort. On the entire battlefield, the only one not fighting the magical beasts was Long Chen. He was calmly looking at the light barrier. The expert from Pill Valley glanced at Long Chen out of the corner of his eye. He smiled coldly. Once everyone was done with the magical beasts, they could directly eliminate him. This expert was a supreme expert that Pill Valley had been hiding. He had mastered all of Pill Valley's flame magical arts. If the yin-yang world hadn't opened, Pill Valley wouldn't have exposed him. Now that he had entered the yin-yang world, his greatest mission was to eliminate Long Chen and destroy the Dragonblood Legion. Long Chen could not be allowed to leave alive. Originally, he hadn't been planning on targeting Long Chen so early, as he had wanted to test his own luck to see if he could get any treasures. However, he had ended up encountering Long Chen here. If Long Chen was smart, he would have immediately fled, but he was just foolishly staring at the light pillar as if he didn't know how close to death he was. He didn't disturb Long Chen. Instead, he helped the experts with annihilating the magical beasts. Long Chen didn't even look at the intense battle raging around him. He held 2 swords in his hands. He suddenly threw one of the swords into the light barrier. When it struck the light barrier instantly turned black, and the sword, which was an ancestral item, instead turned into black bits that drifted away. Long Chen waited a moment and threw his other sword in. This time, his sword pierced into the light barrier, but when it was about to exit, the barrier once more turned black and the sword dissipated. Long Chen, your death has come. That expert from Pill Valley suddenly led hundreds of experts over. Each one of them was an Empyrean whose manifestation had begun to awaken. They were elites amongst elites, or they wouldn't have been able to bypass the vines at the gate. Having joined forces, they formed groups of 10 to slay the 12th rank magical beasts. It was actually very easy. After all, magical beasts were not very intelligent. After being attacked by so many experts, they were naturally at a disadvantage. They also didn't know that they should run, so they were all killed. Once killed, everyone gathered around Long Chen. Long Chen, today is the day of your death, shouted an ancient race expert. We have to make sure not to let him off too easily, added an expert from the Xian beasts. The experts from all the various large forces had gathered to attack Long Chen. Even some of the righteous experts were shouting along, as if Long Chen was the criminal who had slain their fathers. Long Chen looked back at the group. A faint smile of derision appeared on his face. Do you see me giving a damn about you? That look of contempt immediately provoked everyone. Their divine items lit up and their manifestations appeared behind them. Idiots! Long Chen's gaze swept over these experts. Shaking his head, he raised 2 middle fingers, turned around, and stepped into the light barrier. Seeing this, all those experts jumped in shock. Was Long Chen committing suicide? However, shockingly, Long Chen passed straight through the light barrier without harm. How is that possible? Did the light barrier lose its effect? Quick, we can't let him get it first. Shocked cries rang out because they all saw Long Chen speeding toward the yin-yang immortal grass. Everyone panicked. Could it be that the light barrier had a time limit, and after a certain time, it lost its effect? Several experts hastily charged through the light barrier, but as soon as they struck it, the black ripples appeared, turning them to dust. No! More people were hot on the first few people's trails, and they couldn't stop in time. They smashed into the light barrier, transforming into dust. 17 Empyreans were killed just like that, like moths attracted to fire. That expert from Pill Valley had an ugly expression now. Just now, he had almost smashed into the light barrier to chase after Long Chen. If his reactions weren't quick enough, he would have died. Damn it, how is this possible? Why would the light barrier not stop Long Chen but block us? Unwilling roars rang out. Unfortunately, no matter how they roared, it was useless. Long Chen had already entered, while they would be killed if they touched the light barrier. No one dared to try again. They could only watch as Long Chen flew toward the yin-yang immortal grass. There has to be a method to get in. It's just that we haven't figured out the secret to the light barrier yet, said someone. Everyone think. If we pool our intelligence together, I refuse to believe that we can't figure it out if Long Chen could. That's right, whoever figures it out must share it. After all, if they enter alone, their chances of defeating Long Chen are low. If we enter together, we can annihilate him and avoid any accidents. Spread out. Surround the light barrier so that Long Chen can't leave. If Long Chen approaches you, shout for reinforcements. Even if Long Chen obtains the yin-yang immortal grass, he won't have time to refine it, so he won't be stronger. If we attack together, he won't have a life to enjoy his treasures, said the expert from Pill Valley. He had great prestige amongst these people, and they immediately followed his orders, surrounding the light pillar. No matter which direction Long Chen went, he would have to face at least 3 powerful experts. It should be simple for them to hold him back. The experts also began testing the light barrier just like Long Chen had. They constantly tested it, but no matter what they threw at it, everything would turn to black dust. They couldn't figure out any pattern. Even after an incense stick's worth of time later, they were unable to make the slightest progress. Chu Yao was also following along, but inside, she was laughing. Was intelligence really something that could be pooled? If a river took someone 12 hours to cross, could 12 people cross it in 1 hour? Of course not. Long Chen might not like to use his head, but when he did, only a few people could match him. Long Chen had told her not to expose herself. She simply attacked the barrier along with the others, looking closely at Long Chen. His figure was tiny now. He had finally arrived at the foot of the yin-yang immortal grass. When Long Chen first entered the light barrier, he looked back with a cold smile at the experts who followed him, smashing into the barrier. The reason he dared to pass the light barrier was because he had figured out how it worked. Or perhaps he should say that amongst everyone present, he was the only one qualified to enter the light barrier. This light barrier was affected by the yin-yang immortal grass. It was a special barrier, and although it looked like it had a single layer, there were actually 9 layers. The 9 layers were stacked together, but each layer was filled with alternating life and death energy. There was a certain gap between the alternating life and death energy, and if you could grasp that gap, you could enter. However, the flow of life and death energy in the barrier was not so easy to read. If you misread it and walked into the death energy, you would be instantly killed. To cross only the life side of all 9 layers was something only Nether Passage experts who had comprehended life and death could do. That was why none of these experts could figure out the barrier. The reason Long Chen could do it was because he had entered the netherworld and gathered the life spirit water and death spirit water. He had a great deal of experience when it came to these 2 kinds of energy. Despite that, other than using those 2 swords as a test, Long Chen had also tossed some very fine leaves inside to figure out the barrier. Only once he was sure it was safe did he enter. However, he was truly evil. He had intentionally waited for those people to gather around him before provoking them and entering. Those people didn't even have time to consider it. Almost automatically assuming that the barrier had lost effect, they had chased, resulting in over 10 Empyreans being conned to their deaths. Past the light barrier, Long Chen saw that this space was also its own world. It was not as small as it looked on the outside. It took him a full incense stick's worth of time to get close to the yin-yang immortal grass. At this time, he finally managed to see the complete form of the yin-yang immortal grass. He also had a closer look at the divine pool beneath it. It was an enormous divine pool filled with primal chaos. It was misty and radiated a divine glimmer. The giant yin-yang immortal grass was taking root within the divine pool. On the edges of the pool, Long Chen saw runic chains. The yin-yang immortal grass's rhizome was chained by them. The divine pool was chained here, as was the yin-yang immortal grass. Looking up at the black and white leaves in the sky, Long Chen felt like an ant. The leaves completely covered the sky. This feeling of teeniness wasn't just based on sight but also on his spiritual perception. He could feel a majestic aura coming from the yin-yang immortal grass that surpassed anything that he knew. That energy might really be enough to destroy this entire world. Just how am I supposed to take it? Looking at the giant yin-yang immortal grass, Long Chen felt a chill. Even with his guts, he wasn't so sure about this. The giant divine pool was chained down together with the yin-yang immortal grass. To take it was a crazy man's dream. Even if the yin-yang immortal grass didn't resist, just by it being chained to this divine pool made Long Chen powerless. Those chains definitely had some terrifying restrictions. One mistake and he would lose his little life. Hello. How are you, little human? Just as Long Chen's head was spinning with ideas as to how he was supposed to move the yin-yang immortal grass into the primal chaos space, its black and white lines quivered. Long Chen's body tightened, and he suddenly appeared at the center of the yin-yang immortal grass. At the same time, a voice rang out in his mind. Long Chen was shocked. He had been transported to the top of the yin-yang immortal grass without the slightest bit of ability to resist. He was standing on one of its leaves, on the white side that was filled with life energy. He didn't sense anything wrong with his body, but his heart was pounding crazily. Was this yin-yang immortal grass actually some kind of terrifying tree demon? Ah, I'm doing all right, responded Long Chen. He knew that this voice was the yin-yang immortal grass communicating with him. Space shook. The large sphere growing at the top of the yin-yang immortal grass, which looked like its fruit, slowly shrunk. An elder with long facial hair actually appeared from within. The elder was half white and half black, looking bizarre. His face was lean, giving off a feeling of the immortal Tao. Senior, You are the yin-yang immortal grass? You can control life and death? Can you make a person live forever? Asked Longchen curiously. The elder smiled faintly. The yin-yang immortal grass is just a name from this star field. As for my real name, well, it's not important. Life and death energy truly can be controlled, but it must be within the scope that the heavenly Daos permit. As for living forever? That's impossible. In this world, there is nothing that lives forever. The elder looked bizarre, but his words were kind. He wasn't at all overbearing or arrogant. He was just like an ordinary elder. Senior, what is going on here? Longchen pointed down, indicating the chains. A scam, a trap. The elder sighed helplessly. A scam? A trap? You mean the entire yin-yang world is a trap in and of itself? Asked Longchen. Not just that. The elder shook his head. Not just that? Longchen jumped. He vaguely felt a feeling of immense danger that made him very uneasy. Senior, Longchen wanted to keep asking questions, but the elder shook his head. Don't ask. You have something on you that isolates you from life and death energy. Even I am unable to see through your origins or your end. To have a treasure like that recognize you as its master, you must be a game breaker. That's why many things don't make a difference whether you know them or not. If I told you them, it would only draw karma, so it's not worth it. Little friend, our meeting is fate. If you can free me from my bindings, I will definitely give you a satisfactory reward. Me? Am I really capable of that? Longchen was startled. This yin-yang immortal grass was absolutely terrifying, but it had been bound here. How was he, a little soul transformation disciple, supposed to help it? It should be no problem. You were able to cross the life and death barrier, so this should all be fated. If you came here but were unable to break the chains, you wouldn't be able to gain anything. That's not the style of fate. I know that you have two friends outside the barrier. One is hidden in a spiritual space, but I still sense the spiritual fluctuations of the undying race. This primal chaos divine elixir in the pool beneath me is the result of the yin-yang world's dual yin and yang springs merging together. There is life and death energy mixed in, and it is a priceless treasure to that undying friend of yours. It's enough to make it completely transform and control life and death energy. The reason I was transplanted here and chained is because every time the yin-yang fruit matures, they will come gather it and turn me into a slave. My yin-yang fruit is about to mature once more. Their plan has almost reached fruition. The great era has come again, and this might be the last time they're picking my yin-yang fruit. In other words, they will make sure to reap my life as well, said the elder. His voice was filled with helplessness, as well as a trace of hatred. There also seemed to be some kind of longing. Just who are they? Even you are unable to handle them? Asked Longchen. When I was caught, I was still young. I was powerless to resist. Now that I have the power to resist, I am chained and restricted. After all these years, I've learned many things. I only have one desire left, and that is to return to my home and take a look. I don't know whether my parents and brothers are still doing well, or even if that star field of ours is still present, sighed the elder. Little friend, if you can help free me, I can send the primal chaos divine elixir to your friend, as well as transmit my understanding of life and death to it. I know your human race must comprehend life and death before entering the nether passage realm. If your friend absorbs this primal chaos divine elixir and receives my understanding of life and death, then it would be easy for it to allow anyone to comprehend life and death energy. However, the first precondition is that I cannot give you the yin-yang fruit. I need to use its power to break the void and leave this world. I need it to return to my star field, said the elder. Longchen was astonished. Comprehending life and death would be easy. Then wouldn't that mean that all the Dragonblood warriors could enter the Nether Passage realm? The Nether Passage realm was a giant dividing range in the cultivation world. Amongst 10,000 life star experts, there might not be a single one capable of comprehending life and death. That meant that they weren't even qualified to attempt breaking through to the Nether Passage realm. So the Nether Passage realm was something that made countless geniuses feel despair. However, the yin-yang immortal grass was an existence in control of life and death energy. Long Chen trusted that it wouldn't lie to him. If he really could succeed, the Dragon Blood Legion would be able to dominate the Martial Heaven continent. Alright, I'll accept this. What do I do? Come with me. Suddenly, the two of them vanished. Long Chen felt like he was falling down a tube. After a moment, his vision became bright again. They had actually appeared within the pool. There was a giant platform here from which the chains were coming out. This is the core of the Primal Chaos Divine Pool. The chains are connected in a giant formation. As long as you can break a single one, the entire formation will become unbalanced, and I can break it to regain my freedom, said the elder. Long Chen looked at the chain in front of him. He had no idea what material it was made of, but it looked extremely tough. Each chain was thicker than a house. To break such a chain was not easy. This chain's strength probably exceeded average divine items. I'm afraid that I won't be able to break it. Long Chen was solemn. The aura of these chains was too powerful. If he wanted to break it, he would probably need to use the seventh form of Split the Heavens. However, if he used the seventh form of Split the Heavens here, how would he face the experts outside? How would he face the other dangers here? The elder seemed to see through Long Chen's misgivings. You are the game breaker. You definitely have the power to do things that others cannot, to break rules that others cannot. In this I trust. Even if you must use a powerful self-harming technique, I can help you bear the cost. I won't let you suffer the slightest damage. Is that really possible? Asked Long Chen. Although I am powerless against the chains, my power can guarantee that you stay safe no matter what, promised the elder. Fine. Fuck, I'll go all out today. Old man, you better not have conned me. Long Chen raised Evil Moon. If Evil Moon was awake, then perhaps Long Chen would have confidence with its help. But it was in slumber, and everything was up to himself. His intuition told him that the elder wouldn't lie to him. Since he promised that everything would be fine, then Long Chen could test out the seventh form of Split the Heavens. A huge saber image appeared out of Evil Moon. At the same time, Long Chen's divine ring appeared, and 5 stars shone in his eyes. When he saw Long Chen's divine ring, the elder's pupils shrank. He seemed to realize something and his mouth opened, but at this moment, Long Chen roared, slashing Evil Moon down at the chain. Boom! The saber image slashed into the chain, causing this entire underwater world to explode. Even the yin-yang immortal grass shook fiercely. At some point, the elder had placed a hand on Long Chen's back. That was a hand as white as jade, and gentle energy poured into Long Chen's body. The huge backlash from using the seventh form of Split the Heavens had yet to tear through Long Chen's body when this gentle energy sucked it all away. How powerful! Long Chen was stunned by the yin-yang immortal grass's abilities. If he had its assistance, wouldn't he be able to freely unleash the seventh form of Split the Heavens? He could directly kill whoever he found displeasing. His admiration for the yin-yang immortal grass grew stronger, and he had another thought, but regretfully he saw that his attack did not shatter the chain. Again! Long Chen raised Evil Moon once more. In any case, with the yin-yang immortal grass helping him shoulder the injury, he didn't mind hacking at it a few more times. He was just wasting a bit of spiritual yuan. It just so happened that he could get accustomed to this technique. No need, you've already succeeded. Cracks have appeared in the chain. The elder waved his hand, his voice quivering with excitement. Little friend, thank you. There is no way to express my gratitude. I hope one day you can break this death game, and we will meet again in some other star field. Senior, you're too courteous. Furthermore, we're working together, each for our own profit. About that, I'm a bit embarrassed, but I know you're not a petty person, so I was wondering if you could give one of your roots to me? Asked Long Chen with a thick face. The elder smiled and said, that's no problem. A single root won't affect my power much. I just need enough to break through the barrier of this world. However, I should tell you that while my root can exist on its own, it takes an enormous amount of life and death energy to nourish, or it will quickly wither and die. Other than that, even if you did have a method to nourish it, it would take an extremely long time to grow. With a human's longevity, 100,000 years is nothing to it. Don't waste time on growing the root if it distracts you from important things. The elder's meaning was clear. Long Chun should spend his time on other things rather than wasting it on growing the root. He didn't have enough time to mature it. I know. All I need is the tiniest bit. I still want to try even if I might not succeed, said Long Chen. His primal chaos space had soil filled with life energy, and the black soil that devoured all life which could represent death energy. If he planted it between the two sides, wouldn't it have both life and death energy? All right, then it seems I was worried for nothing. The elder smiled and extended a hand. It held out over 100 roots as thin as a hair. Long Chen jumped. These roots were being compressed by a spatial law. In truth, each one of them was thicker than a foot and many meters long. Many thanks, Senior. Long Chen received one of the roots and his hand sank. That root was heavier than a mountain. At the same time, its life and death energy almost caused his palm to split open. He hastily sent it into the primal chaos space. He planted it on the border of the black soil. However, even after planting it, there wasn't any reaction. He didn't know if it would survive. I'm not in a rush to leave. That girl should be your friend, correct? The elder waved his hand, revealing an image of Chu Yao. Yes, it's her. Long Chen nodded. All right. Space shook ever so slightly. Chu Yao, who was outside the light pillar, vanished and reappeared at the bottom of the divine pool. She was shocked and was forming a hand seal when she saw Long Chen smiling at her. Have Lieyun come out. Her opportunity has come. Lieyun came out without waiting for Long Chen. Feeling the energy of primal chaos surrounding her, her icy face finally smiled. A member of the undying race. Yes, your root is very good and contains a trace of the immortal spirit bloodline. It seems your origins aren't simple. The elder nodded at Lieyun with a trace of praise. Lieyun greets Senior. The normally prideful Lieyun actually bowed respectfully toward the elder. That display was one of respect and admiration. No need to bow. Long Chen was standing beside the elder, and he graciously accepted this bow. Bastard, are you looking for a beating? The previously respectful Lieyun instantly turned hostile. Chu Yao was holding back laughter to the side. She knew that Lieyun's impression of Long Chen had always been bad. After all, she had once lost to him and was very irritated by that defeat. She had always been looking to get back at him for this. However, Long Chen was a slippery scoundrel, not letting Lieyun get any advantage. Each time, he teased Lieyun to the point of exploding. She was already used to it. How rude. If it weren't for me, would you have been able to come here? Shouldn't I accept your thanks? Is this how the undying race repays its favors? My eyes have been opened to the world. What, you want to bite me? Long Chen suddenly shouted as Lieyun really bit him. His outstretched hand was instantly taken advantage of. Lieyun was an undying willow, and she transformed her teeth into wooden thorns, instantly piercing his palm. You foolish girl, why are you learning from Guoran? But when he bites people, he always bites the butt, shouted Long Chen as Lieyun bit down harder. This was a very difficult to imagine scene. A beautiful woman was fiercely biting a man's hand. All right, both of you stop. Do you want the senior to laugh at you? Chu Yao pulled the two of them apart. She's the one biting me, grumbled Long Chen, looking at his bleeding hand. You dash. Lieyun almost pounced back at Long Chen, but she was held back by Chu Yao. Senior, I've made you laugh. This lowly wife of mine doesn't have experience and is rude. Please don't blame her. Long Chen apologized to the elder but pushed all the responsibility onto Lieyun. The elder simply smiled slightly. There's nothing for me to laugh at. When I was young, I also had companions like you, brothers and sisters. However, it's been far, far too long since I've spoken with them. I really envy you, and I am grateful. Only now did Chu Yao and Lieyun learn that this terrifying yin-yang immortal grass was actually enslaved here by others. They both felt empathy. Come, little girl. Your power is limited, and you cannot absorb this much primal chaos divine elixir at once. I will help you. In a bit, bring out your true body and absorb as much as you can. Once you can't absorb any more, I will seal the remaining amount inside your body so you can slowly absorb it in the future. We should be quick to avoid the disturbance here, drawing the other side's attention. If that happens, I might be able to escape, but the rest of you will be in danger, said the elder. Long Chen's heart shook. Lieyun didn't waste any more time. Her figure vanished, replaced with a towering willow. The willow was giant but still appeared small when compared to the yin-yang immortal grass. Lieyun sent her roots into the divine pool. Runes began revolving around her entire body as she began rapidly absorbing the primal chaos divine elixir. As Lieyun summoned her true body and began to absorb the pool, the water level slowly fell. Her whole body was shining, and a dragon scale pattern began to appear on her bark. The air of primal chaos covered her completely, and a holy light began to shine from her, as if she had awakened as an immortal spirit, as if she no longer belonged to the mortal world. As the primal chaos energy entered her body, Long Chen saw black-white surges of energy intertwining in her branches. Chu Yao watched excitedly. This was a huge opportunity for Lieyun. She would be completely transformed afterward. However, after around a quarter of the divine pool was absorbed, the water level stopped descending. Lieyun was covered in immortal mist, and faint black and white marks had appeared on her leaves. She had reached her limit and could not absorb any more. Prepare yourself. I will help you. The elder pressed his palms against each other. The leaves of the giant yin-yang immortal grass wrapped around Lieyun. In front of the yin-yang immortal grass, even Lieyun's true body seemed tiny. The black and white leaves had divine runes flow out of them, condensing into whirlpools that poured the divine elixir into Lieyun's body. The water level rapidly sank. In just a few seconds, it reached the bottom. Only now did Chu Yao see that there were two spring openings at the bottom. White liquid like milk bubbled out of one, while black liquid like squid ink came from the other. The speed at which these two liquids came out was extremely slow. Based on that speed, it would take tens of thousands of years to fill this pool up. The yin-yang immortal grass's leaves released Lieyun. She returned to her human form, but a black and white mark had appeared on her forehead. That was the seal that the yin-yang immortal grass had left in her. The remaining divine elixir was locked inside that seal so that she could slowly absorb it. Suddenly, Lieyun sent a palm at Long Chen, and caught by surprise, he was sent flying into the distance. Lieyun's palm had contained some kind of strange energy, and Long Chen felt his blood flipping inside him. He was about to burst into curses when Lieyun knelt on the ground toward the yin-yang immortal grass, her palms pressed against each other. Many thanks, Senior. Lieyun was filled with gratitude for this elder. He had not just sealed the divine elixir inside her, but he had also transmitted his understanding of life and death, yin and yang, growth and decay, all his life's understanding to her. Although she was not at the level where she could understand it at all yet, she could slowly comprehend it in the future, and she would sooner or later reach that height. This was something that would benefit her for a lifetime and could already be called the inheritance of a master to a disciple. Seeing this, Long Chen couldn't say anything. Lieyun had knocked him away to prevent him from taking advantage like he just had. Child, rise. I'm ashamed. This is simply my agreement with this little friend. If you want to thank someone, you should thank him, said the elder, raising Lieyun up. Lieyun stood. She nodded slightly to Long Chen without looking at him, and that was it. Long Chen was still waiting for Lieyun to apologize, but she didn't even look at him. Rolling his eyes inside, he decided not to quibble with her over this. To the elder, he said, Senior, we can speak spiritually. The elder directly switched to spiritual communication. Long Chen was startled. However, using the same kind of spiritual communication, he said, I want to know what the game breaker means. I've heard it several times now. He had heard this from the Ascender in the Four Nations ancient remnant, and Sovereign Yun Shang had also brought it up. It seemed others had also mentioned it, but even now, he didn't know what it meant. The world is like a chessboard. Everyone is a piece that has their own fate. The lines of life and death have already been set. However, some people are not within the plan but are still on the board. Such people are called game breakers. Then this so-called game, who set it up? Asked Longchen. Some games are made by people, some are made by the heavens. However, no matter who set it up, the game breakers always bring disorder. They are not accepted by heaven or earth, and so they face endless calamities. They are fated to have lives of trouble and misfortune. For you to have grown to your current height, I'm sure you're already aware of this. Game breakers break the chessboard and change the fate of the world. The more the game breakers grow, the more they will change the world, and the more they will influence the final outcome of the board. So your path will only become more dangerous. There are only two possibilities: you will either topple this world, or the world will destroy you, said the elder. Other than that, I see something legendary on your body, so there are many things I cannot say, I dare not say. What I can say is that the board is about to reach its final stage. If you don't topple the board, you will be destroyed by the board. Long Chen's heart shook. He suddenly recalled that voice that occasionally appeared in his head that constantly said that the time was almost up. Was it referring to this board? Young friend, thank you. Thank you for giving me a chance to return home. I will forever remember you. Hopefully, you can topple this chessboard and survive. I hope we can meet again. The elder slowly rose. His body lit up, and he merged into the yin-yang immortal grass. I'm going to break the chains. When the chains are broken, the formation will crumble. There is a horde of locusts on a mountain not far from here. They will be woken when the formation crumbles, and those locusts are more difficult to handle than the magical beasts. You should be careful. The yin-yang immortal grass's voice rang out in their ears. This was its final goodbye. The yin-yang immortal grass's whole body began quivering crazily. The chains beneath it were pulled taut, and the earth began shuddering as well. There was one runic chain amongst those countless chains that was already dim. Cracks began growing all along it. That was the chain that Long Chen had struck. That chain suddenly shattered due to the yin-yang immortal grass's power. Then a chain reaction followed. All the chains shuddered, and one by one, they shattered. Goodbye. Let me thank you once more. The yin-yang immortal grass explosively grew. It broke through the sky. The formation of the light pillar was shattered, and the entire world trembled fiercely. Mountains crumbled, the earth sank. It was like the world was about to be destroyed. Those experts on the outside had started panicking when they saw Chu Yao be summoned inside by the yin-yang immortal grass. However, now as the formation broke, they simply stood there in dumb shock. The power of the yin-yang immortal grass made them feel like a mountain was crushing them. Even moving a finger was difficult. At this moment, whoever still had any intention of snatching the yin-yang immortal grass would really be an idiot. Something on that level wasn't anything that they could touch. Only now did they find just how foolish their previous thinking was. The formation exploded, and even the stars in the sky were shaking. After that, a giant hole appeared in the void, and the yin-yang immortal grass slowly entered it. In the end, it vanished within the hole. The yin-yang immortal grass was gone, and the terrifying pressure had faded. The world was peaceful. However, after that intense shaking, the earth was sundered and the mountains had collapsed. Long Chen's still present. Kill him. He has definitely obtained some treasure. One sharp-eyed fellow noticed that Long Chen, Chu Yao, and Lu Ruyan were still present. Although they didn't know what had just happened, they knew that Long Chen had definitely gained something good. All their eyes turned red with greed. Fuck, it's been a long time since I had a slaughter. Come, my blade has long since grown thirsty. Long Chen rose into the air, evil moon on his shoulder. Did they really think he was so easy to bully? Seeing Long Chen still standing there, that expert from Pill Valley smiled coldly. Holding his blood-red flame spear, he took the lead in charging at Long Chen. Boom! Just as a great battle was about to erupt, the ground exploded, revealing a giant hole. A group of fist-sized locusts flew out. Their bodies were golden, but compared to ordinary locusts, they had a pair of pincers on their mouths that flickered with a cold light. While the rest of them looked like they were made of gold, only their pincers were blood-colored. "Heavens, phantom blood locusts!" shouted someone in a panic. Phantom blood locusts might normally be golden, but when they attacked, blood-colored runes would appear on their wings, making them appear scarlet. Their golden color was what they looked like normally, but once they changed color, it meant that they were infuriated. The phantom blood locusts soared out, filling the sky like a giant wave. They charged at the experts present. "Fuck, I actually forgot." Long Chen clapped his leg. He had actually forgotten the yin-yang immortal grass's warning about the locusts. Seeing these phantom blood locusts, his face turned green. These things were even more terrifying than the 12th rank magical beasts. The phantom blood locusts were incredibly quick. A powerful Empyrean was surrounded in an instant, and while he crazily fought, there were too many phantom blood locusts. One of them bit his leg, and with a scream, his entire body stiffened. Then the phantom blood locusts enveloped him, and when they left, he was gone. Not even a bone was left. "Run!" Long Chen pulled Chu Yao and Lieyun away, running as fast as he could. Fuck, how can they ignore our defenses? No! Startled and frightened cries rang out. The phantom blood locusts were a strange kind of insect. While they were also classified as magical beasts, they were oddities, equally as famous as the heaven-devouring ants. Even if a more powerful magical beast encountered them, they would flee. The phantom blood locust's mouth contained powerful runes that could tear through armor. A 12th rank magical beast would instantly turn into a skeleton in the face of millions of phantom blood locusts. As for human experts, unless they had armor on the level of divine items, they wouldn't even be left with a skeleton. Once bitten by their pincers, your entire body would stiffen. Your Yuan spirit would freeze, and that would spell defeat. The phantom blood locusts were nightmares amongst magical beasts. Magical beasts like the phantom blood locust normally weren't called magical beasts. They were different from other magical beasts like centipedes, scorpions, or spiders. That was because they didn't have crystal cores, and all their energy was concentrated in their mouths. That was an innate kind of terrifying power. Some people joked that whatever God had made this world had made a mistake and accidentally created a few things that even they themselves didn't understand. These phantom blood locusts were one of those existences. Rumors were that they were viewed as an invasive species back in ancient times and were hunted down. The phantom blood locusts were capable of devouring all life from a world. They bred quickly, and if they were allowed freedom, a world could meet with catastrophe. In comparison, the heaven-devouring ants were a bit better. They were simply very territorial, but as long as you didn't step into their territory or kill them, they would only start hunting when they were hungry, and their main prey was underground ores. Flesh was just a portion of their diet. The heaven-devouring ants didn't randomly increase their territory, and they bred slowly. So the phantom blood locusts were far worse, a plague, a nightmare, an apocalyptic catastrophe for a world. Of course, any knowledge of the phantom blood locusts was only within some ancient murals. They were important enough to include in murals because there were several times in human history when the phantom blood locusts had appeared, causing the human race to pay a great price to exterminate them. As for now, no one had expected there to be so many phantom blood locusts sleeping underground. Like an overturned ant nest, everyone fled. However, the ground continued to explode, and phantom blood locusts came from every direction. They were extremely fast, and when they spread their wings, countless afterimages would appear. That was where the phantom in their name came from. Most frightening of all, the people had no idea just how many phantom blood locusts were still hidden underground. The ground was constantly splitting open, revealing large caves which they were flying out of. "Chu Yao, you and Lieyun go in the direction of the exit," said Long Chen. "Then what are you going to do?" asked Chu Yao. "That idiot from the Bloodkill Hall has set his sights on me. He has some kind of secret art concealing his presence. I can only vaguely sense that he is approaching me, but I can't narrow down his location. I will find some way to draw him out. He's too dangerous, so I want to eliminate him now." Long Chen had sharp senses toward the Bloodkill Hall's people, so he was never afraid of them. However, this fellow was actually able to block himself from his senses, meaning that he was definitely a terrifying assassin. Such a person was too dangerous. He wasn't worried for himself, but he was worried about the assassin targeting others. Chu Yao was a wood cultivator and had sharp senses toward assassinations. She also had Lieyun. Perhaps that person was unable to do anything to Chu Yao. However, in a chaotic fight, such a person was too dangerous. He would definitely choose to target soul cultivators like Meng Qi and Xia Chen. So he was worried. Then be careful. Chu Yao nodded, knowing what he was thinking. Do you need my help? Surprisingly, Lieyun took the initiative to ask. No. The phantom blood locusts are too powerful, and just one bite can be fatal. I would rather you protect Chu Yao. I will handle the Bloodkill Hall's braggart, said Long Chen. Boom. Long Chen slashed Evil Moon, and a fierce saber chi slashed a line through the phantom blood locusts. However, even this attack only created a narrow opening. Other phantom blood locusts away from the center weren't killed and were only knocked away. The path quickly shrank. The phantom blood locusts were also tough, and they would normally only die if struck by the core of an attack. Any shockwaves or such were unable to kill them. Curious, Long Chen's expression changed slightly. What is it? Asked Chu Yao. Where is Lingshan? She came with me, but we split up after I went to look for you. She's not here. Even after such a long time, there was no sign of her. At first, he had thought that she was hiding, and he had been waiting to receive her at any moment. However, even when his divine sense swept through the battlefield, he didn't notice Lingshan. With her power, there were only a handful of individuals capable of threatening her. Her safety shouldn't be a problem, but she still hadn't appeared. He didn't understand. Could an accident have befallen her? Asked Chu Yao. No, Lingshan is also an expert who killed her way up step by step. She definitely has ways to protect herself. Perhaps she found some kind of special opportunity of her own, said Long Chen. He led the two of them through the phantom blood locusts. More and more of them appeared, and Long Chen repeatedly slashed his sword, killing a way through. Just as Long Chen was attacking, space twisted, and a sword silently pierced toward his back. It was aimed precisely for the most difficult place for Long Chen to block or dodge. You finally can't wait any longer? Long Chen sneered. There was no time to use Evil Moon to block. A golden dragon tooth suddenly appeared in the space beside him. That Bloodkill Hall's assassin's expression changed. He hastily blocked the tooth, but he was blown back. He almost coughed up blood. While assassinating, his energy was all concentrated within himself to avoid being sensed. Even though he was a powerful Empyrean, he hadn't unleashed his manifestation, so in a direct clash, assassins were at a disadvantage. If he summoned his manifestation, then such a huge disturbance was something only a dead person wouldn't sense. How was he supposed to sneak attack like that? The Bloodkill Hall had a secret art that allowed their assassins to merge with their manifestations. However, limiting their manifestation's power like that to keep it hidden meant that they could only use 50% of its power. What the Bloodkill Hall's experts pursued was assassination arts, not power, and their defensive power was extremely low. So this dragon tooth attack almost made him cough up blood. Today, I'll see if I can beat any piss out of you. After the dragon tooth attack, Long Chen unleashed a tempest of attacks with Evil Moon. While Long Chen attacked the Bloodkill Hall's expert, Lieyun formed hand seals, and willow leaves appeared, wrapping around her and Chu Yao. Those willow leaves had black and white marks on them. They emitted a sharp aura. When they smashed into the phantom blood locusts, the phantom blood locusts were forced back. It would be difficult to kill them, but forcing a way through them was enough. Following Long Chen's directions, they charged out, taking advantage of while the phantom blood locusts had yet to fully fill the surroundings, or they really would be in danger. There were just too many of them. Some of the phantom blood locusts would manage to latch onto the leaves they smashed into and bite them. Those leaves would immediately wither away into nothingness. They were practically endless, but fortunately Lieyun also had many leaves to take out. She was entirely able to keep up with this. Lieyun and Chu Yao charged out, while Long Chen was unleashing waves of saber chi to trap the assassin. That assassin's expression was icy. With Long Chen sealing his movements, he couldn't retreat. He could only unleash his manifestation and fight all out. What surprised Long Chen was that even without his assassination arts, this Bloodkill Hall expert was still very powerful. His sword arts were sharp and vicious. Even in a head-on battle, Long Chen was unable to suppress him. Now he knew that the name of the Bloodkill Hall's 3 divine emissaries was not for nothing. They were powerful whether in terms of a head-on battle or a hidden assassination. The thing that gave him the biggest headache was that he couldn't unleash any stronger moves because those moves took time to cast. The assassin might take advantage of that opening to flee. To kill a powerful assassin required one to unleash a tempest of attacks that didn't give them any breathing room. Hence, Long Chen couldn't let up even the slightest bit, or the assassin would slip away. Next time, it would be even more difficult to catch him. Saberlight and sword images repeatedly clashed, unleashing chi waves that blew back the phantom blood locusts. The surging chi waves shocked the fleeing experts. These two were true experts. They actually dared to ignore the phantom blood locusts filling this space. It had to be known that for them, just blocking the locusts was already done nervously. They were afraid of being bitten by one and losing their life as a result. However, Long Chen and this expert of the Bloodkill Hall were fighting intensely while ignoring the phantom blood locusts. Just from that, it was possible to see the difference between them. Suddenly, a mass of phantom blood locusts blew apart. A flame spear pierced through the air at Long Chen. Long Chen Aihuanin will make you die a miserable death today for insulting Pill Valley. That expert from Pill Valley's Flame Divine Palace suddenly killed his way over, unleashing a frightening attack. The raging flame spear pierced toward Long Chen. Its terrifying heat roasted the air and caused space to twist. Even the phantom blood locusts were blown apart. Lieyun was surrounded by flames. His manifestation was active behind him, and within it was a person sitting cross-legged. That figure was like a god, and its divine might shook the sky. Boom! Black flames surged out of Evil Moon, and Long Chen slashed the flame spear. It was like a sun had exploded, and the surrounding phantom blood locusts were incinerated. The instant Long Chen faced Lieyun's spear, the Bloodkill Hall's man-killer vanished. His aura was completely gone. Long Chen's expression was slightly grave. Enemies he could face openly weren't frightening. However, to have an assassin lying in wait as he fought all out against someone else was definitely dangerous. That had the possibility of killing him. But the Black Illusion Dragon Flame will be changing masters today. Lieyun pointed his flame spear at Long Chen. His eyes were shining greedily. After all, Long Chen's Black Illusion Dragon Flame was something any flame cultivator would long for. If you have the ability, then come and take it, said Long Chen indifferently. He might be a terrifying expert, but Long Chen wasn't afraid of him. From the previous exchange, Long Chen had confirmed that Lieyun was an expert on the same level as Xia Luo and the others. He hadn't expected Pill Valley to be hiding such a terrifying expert. It seemed that he had underestimated them. However, even facing Lieyun and the Bloodkill Hall's divine emissary together, all he felt was soaring battle intent. His soul began to heat up, and the warlike blood flowing through his bones was activating. Having such a nice place as your burial grounds is your luck, shouted Lieyun. My bones aren't so easy to bury. Of course, if you have the ability, you can try. Speaking of which, I have a question. Has the Pill Fairy come? Probed Long Chen. Shut up. The Pill Fairy isn't someone an idiot like you can touch. As soon as Long Chen mentioned the Pill Fairy, Lieyun seemed to become an angry lion. With a furious roar, his flame spear pierced toward Long Chen. She's also not someone an idiot like you can touch. Long Chen instantly understood. Black flames erupted out of Evil Moon, transforming it into a giant black flame blade. Boom! When Evil Moon and the flame spear collided, the earth crumbled beneath them. Black and red flames surged out in every direction. This place instantly became a sea of flames that incinerated the phantom blood locusts. Long Chen's flame was ranked second on the Earth flame rankings, and its power was enough to burn the sky and vaporize seas. As for Lieyun's blood-colored flame, it was a kind of core flame. One of Lieyun's ancestors had been the trusted general of a god, and this core flame was that god's blessing. It contained a trace of divine power. This kind of core flame could continuously refine other flames, merging them all into his bloodline. It was a bit similar to how Lieyun continuously absorbed other earth flames. Therefore, Lieyun was a secret weapon that Pill Valley had been nurturing, and he possessed a natural advantage from birth. All kinds of earth flames had been given to him, whatever he wanted. His core flame contained the earth flames of every flame cultivator on the Martial Heaven continent. However, even though Pill Valley had done their best to create such a genius, some things just couldn't be bought with money. The Black Illusion Dragon Flame and the Heaven Incinerating Flame in Long Chen's hands were things that Lieyun did not possess. If his core flame could absorb the Black Illusion Dragon Flame, his combat power would instantly leap to a higher level. That was another one of Lieyun's goals in coming into the Yin-Yang world. He wanted Long Chen's life, as well as his earth flame. Lieyun repeatedly struck with his spear, and Evil Moon shuddered as it blocked. Black and red flames continued to clash, spreading spheres of flames around. "Bastard, you're just trash not worth mentioning. All you relied on was luck. Do you think you're qualified to be the toad lusting after the swan?" roared Lieyun, his expression twisted with rage. Lieyun was the descendant of one of the Flame Divine Palace's Grand Elders, and he would be the future commander of the Flame Divine Palace. It could be said that the Flame Divine Palace was Pill Valley's secret army. Although many of Pill Valley's alchemy elders looked down on the Flame Divine Palace since they couldn't refine pills, even those elders know that the connection between Pill Valley and the Flame Divine Palace was not so simple. In the Flame Divine Palace's view, their number one expert, Lieyun, was a natural match for the genius Pill Fairy. One had unrivaled alchemy arts, and the other had dominating combat power. In truth, even those living fossils of the Flame Divine Palace and Pill Valley hoped to see the two of them end up together. When Pill Valley arranged to bring out their secret weapon, Lieyun, they had arranged for the two of them to meet. It could be considered playing matchmaker. Regretfully, the Pill Fairy remained indifferent to Lieyun the entire time. Finally, Lieyun couldn't help expressing his adoration of her. Then he was directly refused by the Pill Fairy. She was known in Pill Valley to be a kind person who never spoke so bluntly. However, Lieyun was the first one to face her cold disdain. She directly told him never to bother her again. Back then, Lieyun was startled and angry, as well as too embarrassed to show himself. He was a supreme expert and felt that he was the only one worthy of her. So he asked her why she had refused him. How was he lacking? Her response was simple. She said that there was only one person worthy of her, and no one else was qualified to stand alongside him. When she said this, Lieyun immediately walked away in a fury. He knew that the Pill Fairy was talking about Long Chen. That was because the Pill Fairy had encountered Long Chen in the Skywood Divine Palace and recognized him to be Long San, who had caused a huge mess in Pill Valley. Back then, Long San was rumored to have received the Pill Fairy's affection. After that, the news that Long San was actually Long Chen caused huge waves. During the Jade Lake pageant, Long Chen had even given the Pill Fairy a flower, telling her a beautiful and poignant love story. It was said that the Pill Fairy had cried tears of emotion at that time. Perhaps she had completely fallen in love with him. These rumors weren't just being discussed in the outside world, but it was stealthily discussed within Pill Valley as well. As a result, the elders harshly berated those gossipers, and some of them were even expelled from Pill Valley. Only then did that gossip come to an end. All of this was originally just gossip that Lieyun had heard, but when the Pill Fairy personally confirmed the rumors, his fury soared. At that time, Lieyun burst into curses, saying that Long Chen was garbage, a coward, and a piece of trash that he could kill with a single hand. As for the Pill Fairy, she merely smiled indifferently without saying anything. That silent disdain added oil to the fire, and Lieyun was so angry that he had attacked the Pill Fairy. It was said that the battle had just started before it was stopped by the Valley Master. After scolding the two of them, the matter had come to an end. However, Lieyun never forgot about it, and now the person he hated the most was before him. Originally, Lieyun had been able to maintain the image of an expert, but as soon as Long Chen brought up the Pill Fairy, he was like an erupting volcano. It was like Long Chen had slain his father. He wanted to kill Long Chen, but he also felt like that alone wouldn't resolve his hatred. He had an urge to tear Long Chen apart, bit by bit. The matter of Pill Fairy had been the first and greatest blow in his life, and he was unable to accept it. Their spear and saber repeatedly clashed, unleashing waves of flames. The phantom blood locusts now no longer dared to get close, and they flew into the distance. The Empyreans were delighted to see this. They had been surrounded and unable to break through the layers of phantom blood locusts. Now, they were standing on the edge of the battlefield where the flames were intense. The phantom blood locusts didn't dare to get close, while they were able to resist. That was much safer than braving the millions of phantom blood locusts themselves. It had only been a short incense stick's worth of time since the phantom blood locusts had appeared, but over 30 of them had died. Their corpses were gone, and their Yuan spirits were extinguished. Fortunately, a small portion of them had managed to flee in time before the phantom blood locusts completed their encirclement. However, the majority had not been able to escape. They were stuck standing on the edge of the battlefield, watching Long Chen's fight while staying on guard against the phantom blood locusts. People have been saying that Pill Valley's been hiding their true power. It seems the rumors are true. This Lieyun was completely unknown before this, but he's so powerful. Exactly, the power of Pill Valley isn't something outsiders can see. Pill Valley has always been the main supplier of the Martial Heaven continent's medicinal pills, and their wealth is terrifying. After so many years, just how much money have they accumulated? Can the Xiantian Dao sect or the Martial Heaven Alliance even compare to them? Now I'll get to see how Long Chen dies. There's also that divine emissary of the Bloodkill Hall hiding around here. I wonder whether Long Chen will die to Lieyun or that assassin. Boom. Just at this moment, a huge explosive sound rang out. The two of their weapons emitted blazing divine light. The divine ring behind Long Chen shook, and 5 stars revolved in his eyes. At this moment, black flames continuously spurted out of Evil Moon, and a vague dragon cry could be heard. Huolong was also unleashing all of its power. Boom. Their weapons once more clashed. Both of them were blown back, and each of them took 9 steps to pull apart some distance. When Long Chen reached his 9th step, before even stabilizing, he suddenly slashed Evil Moon behind him. Flames exploded out of Evil Moon, sending the Bloodkill Hall's divine emissary flying. "Scram, you shameful thing." Long Chen snorted. Then the assassin really did scram. He vanished in midair. The surrounding experts were surprised that Long Chen was able to handle the assassin's sneak attack. He was one of their 3 divine emissaries, and his attack was perfectly timed, but Long Chen seemed to have expected it. Just this one swing of his saber made people feel a chill. His fame was not for nothing. Boom. Long Chen had just forced back the assassin when Lieyun attacked with his spear. This time, his Yuan spirit was summoned. His Yuan spirit was forming hand seals, and sacred chanting filled the air. The Nirvana scripture? I know it too. Long Chen also summoned his Yuan spirit and activated the Nirvana scripture. With the two of them activating the scripture at once, it was as if countless invisible gods were present throughout this world, all chanting in unison. The world shuddered as endless flame energy surged toward the two of them. It was like oil had been thrown onto their flame energy. The entire world almost ignited. Heavens, what terrifying flame energy! Startled cries rang out as the land began to melt and the sky started to twist. How can Long Chen know the Nirvana scripture as well? Shocked cries rang out when the experts saw Long Chen use an identical move. Moreover, the majority of the flame energy was flowing toward Long Chen's side. Apparently, Long Chen once went undercover in Pill Valley under the guise of Long San. He not only caused a ruckus, but he also captured the heart of the Pill Fairy. Rumor is that the Pill Fairy taught him the Nirvana scripture personally. In truth, his Nirvana scripture was something he had obtained from the Heaven Dragon Flame region. However, once his identity as Long San was exposed, people's imaginations were unlimited. There were rumors that it was taught to him by the Pill Fairy. He's so lucky. Are all those women blind? How did they fall for him? I don't see anything attractive about him, cursed an expert from the Ancient Family Alliance. If your face wasn't so pockmarked and you could fix your cross eyes, perhaps you'd be able to compete with Long Chen, sneered someone from the Corrupt Path. Hearing someone so ugly actually say something like this, even the Corrupt Path's people weren't able to endure it. Bastard, are you looking for trouble? Raged the pockmarked man. In truth, his pockmarks weren't pockmarks. They were an innate kind of heavenly Tao rune and a mark of his inherited bloodline. As for his crossed eyes, they were a special divine ability that could overlap two images in the space before him. When fighting, it could throw his enemies off, and it was a huge advantage. However, this person from the Corrupt Path actually mocked him using the two things that he was most proud of. The others all retreated a step. This place had gathered people from all the large powers. The Righteous Path and the Corrupt Path were here. However, the ones from the Righteous Path were all experts that had betrayed the Martial Heaven Alliance. Anyone who stayed loyal to the Martial Heaven Alliance here had fled or been killed. This was also why when Long Chen had entered this place, he had seen all the people from the Righteous Path staring at him with wariness and even hostility. Just as the two of them began an intense fight in the sky, a third figure appeared within the flames. At some point, the assassin had failed a sneak attack and even been injured. Hence, he had chosen to give up on sneak attacking and was fighting openly. What he didn't know was that before this, Long Chen had scattered medicinal powder in the air that was invisible, odorless, and posed no harmful effects. However, it could sink into a person's skin without them noticing it. Relying on his mental connection to the medicinal powder, he was able to accurately pinpoint the assassin's location and give him a serious injury. The assassin had then sensed that something was wrong and switched to a frontal assault. His manifestation appeared, and there was a strange image within it. It looked like the eyes of a fiend. Each time he swung his sword, strange runes would light up in those eyes, and identical runes would flash on his sword. Each swing of his light sword was actually able to block Evil Moon. That was clearly a kind of secret art, or there was no way he would be able to block Long Chen's explosive power. I want him alive, shouted Lieyun, clearly to the assassin. As for the assassin, he didn't reply. He didn't agree or refuse. It was unknown what his intentions were. Boom. Long Chen forced away Lieyun's spear with a swing of Evil Moon, at the same time dodging the assassin's sword. He sneered, "Are you planning on exhausting me to capture me alive? Your imagination really is powerful. Since that's the case, show me just what trump cards you have to be so arrogant." Long Chen's divine ring began to spin rapidly. His 108,000 stars instantly burst forth with power. A giant golden dragon tooth suddenly pierced toward Lieyun with a blazing light. The roar of a dragon could vaguely be heard. The tooth was like an arrow, instantly arriving in front of Lieyun. He was startled, as before this, the power of the dragon tooth hadn't been so great. He hastily blocked. His flame spear exploded, and a burst of dragon might also erupted. However, once the flames blew by, it revealed another spear within his flame spear. His flame spear wasn't actually a spirit weapon but a true divine item. It was just that it had been covered with flames. When the dragon tooth struck the spear's true body, a metallic ringing rang out. The sound of metal clashing against metal caused people to wince. Lieyun was knocked into the distance. His expression changed slightly, as he hadn't expected the dragon tooth to possess such power. Just as Long Chen forced back Lieyun, he swung Evil Moon with an angry roar. All his power burst forth. Split the heavens 6. Killing God Void breaking slash. The assassin snorted, and divine light erupted from his sword. Long Chen's saber image actually shattered upon contact with that sword light. His arms trembled, and he coughed up a mouthful of blood. "Fuck, it's the power of a divine item," cursed Long Chen inside. The assassin had activated the power of his divine item, which was why Long Chen was at a disadvantage. Evil Moon was still in slumber and couldn't help him in the same way. He wouldn't be able to get any advantage fighting like this. Seeing Long Chen cough up blood, all the experts watching smiled. In their eyes, Long Chen would find it difficult to flee. Everyone had spread out and surrounded the battlefield, not giving him any chance to run. "Long Chen, there's nowhere for you to go. Your divine item is just a decoration." Lieyun laughed. Knocking aside the dragon tooth, his spear came stabbing toward Long Chen. This time, blood-colored runes on Lieyun's spear lit up and divine might raged. Clearly, he had also seen the problem with Evil Moon and knew that he could take advantage of it. Normally, these experts wouldn't be willing to activate their divine items unless they had no choice. That was because they weren't Nether Passage experts. Activating their divine items not only required a huge amount of spiritual yuan, but it also exhausted the divine item's core energy. If this core energy was not replenished in a timely fashion, it would gravely affect the divine item's power. However, Lieyun's vision was sharp, and he immediately saw through the problem with Evil Moon, so he directly activated the power of his divine item. With an explosive sound, Long Chen was sent flying again, coughing up more blood. He was unable to activate the divine power of his weapon. As he flew back, Long Chen hastily sent the dragon tooth to block Lieyun, but Lieyun knocked it away with his spear. He attacked Long Chen once again. Worst of all, behind Long Chen was the assassin, his sword unleashing divine light. He was facing enemies from the front and behind. "Fuck, I'll go all out." Long Chen suddenly let out a shout. Ignoring Lieyun's spear, he actually slashed his saber directly at the assassin, seeming to want to die together with him. The assassin smiled derisively. The light of his sword shifted, and he actually switched to defense. He naturally wouldn't sacrifice his life. As long as he blocked Long Chen, Lieyun's attack would take Long Chen's life. Just as everyone was smiling at how Long Chen was about to die, Long Chen also smiled. Starting today, the 3 divine emissaries will become 2. A cyan brick appeared behind Long Chen, rapidly expanding. At the same time, golden light filled the sky. 18 dragon teeth appeared at once. Blinding golden light erupted. 18 dragon teeth had appeared out of nowhere, shooting toward the Bloodkill Hall's divine emissary. It happened abruptly. Just as Long Chen looked to be in desperate straits, he suddenly unleashed such a killing blow. The assassin's expression completely changed. He realized that Long Chen had been feigning being at a disadvantage. Long Chen's goal was him. For an assassin, using 50% of their power was a kind of limit. Any more and it would affect their ability to flee. However, to cooperate with Lieyun and make sure that Long Chen had no chance to escape, he had actually launched a blow with 80% of his power. Now that Long Chen had launched such a vicious killing blow, he was caught with no way to run. A bad feeling rose in his heart, but he had no time to think about this. His manifestation shook, and the divine marks on his sword lit up. He not only activated the power of his divine item, but he also used up all his spiritual yuan to face these 18 dragon teeth. He had no other choice. Bloodkill X slash. The assassin's sword swung, one time vertically and one time horizontally. Its divine light filled the air. Boom. The 18 dragon teeth smashed straight into the giant cross in the air. 18 explosive sounds rang out, but they were so crowded that it sounded like one. An explosive sound also came from behind Long Chen. Lieyun's spear struck the heaven-flipping seal, causing it to quiver and dim rapidly. Lieyun's attack actually exhausted all its energy. However, it had succeeded in its mission. It had blocked Lieyun's attack without Long Chen having to worry about it. It had to be known that the heaven-flipping seal's item spirit was different from other divine items. It was new and independent. It could attack freely. The heaven-flipping seal had blocked Lieyun, while the golden dragon teeth were once more flying at the assassin. What shocked the assassin was that the seemingly overbearing dragon teeth weren't actually as strong as he had expected. "Watch out!" People began to roar in the distance. At some point, another 18 dragon teeth had appeared behind the assassin, shooting toward him. The shouting had no use. The assassin had just sensed something was wrong, but he had no time to react. Those 18 dragon teeth blew him to pieces along with his Yuan spirit. "I finally got one." Long Chen took a deep breath. He had finally eliminated a slippery assassin. Assassins were the worst targets to try to kill, and failing would make it even more difficult next time. Assassins wouldn't fall for the same trick twice. The death of the Bloodkill Hall's divine emissary shocked everyone. It happened just as Long Chen was supposed to lose his life. Long Chen extended a hand, grabbing the heaven-flipping seal. He had to allow the assassin's sword to fly away as he had no time to block it. He coldly looked at the gloomy Lieyun. Lieyun was like a roaring volcano, with flames surging around him. Pointing his spear at Long Chen, he sneered, "Is sinister scheming your strongest point?" Long Chen had been arranging this from the start. His goal from the beginning had been the assassin. There were two conditions to kill him. One was to bait him into a position where he lost the ability to run, and the other was to have him block Long Chen from fleeing, thus drawing him into close range. All this had been arranged by Long Chen to win him a chance to slay a slippery and difficult target. No, when it comes to sinister scheming, who can compare to your Pill Valley? The entire continent is within your scheming. "I am nothing in comparison," said Long Chen. That assassin must be quite sad. He didn't even get a chance to show off his true abilities before dying. Are you going to follow in his footsteps? The truth was that neither Lieyun nor the Bloodkill Hall's assassin had used their true trump cards. No one was willing to expose their trump cards in front of so many people. Thus, the Bloodkill Hall's assassin was definitely sullen in death. Last time, Long Chen's scheme had failed against Xie Luo and true Immortal Jiaoqi. After that, he had decided not to rely on schemes anymore, but it was like the heavens were forcing him into a position where he had to scheme. Killing an assassin was not so easy. Fortunately, he had succeeded this time. The real fight can start now. If I can cut down another idiot from Pill Valley, I'll have a drink to celebrate. Long Chen rested Evil Moon on his shoulder. 36 dragon teeth swirled around him. "Ignorant arrogance. You are just a lowly piece of trash. Do you think you can compare to me?" Although the assassin had been slain, Lieyun was not the slightest bit uneasy. It seemed he didn't care at all. As he spoke, a divine rune appeared on his forehead. When that divine rune appeared, the head of a statue appeared on his manifestation, and the divine mark was present there as well. The divine rune on the statue's head was set ablaze. The fire grew stronger and stronger, and a powerful pressure descended. "Long Chen, a beggar like you can't make up for your deficit even if you were given 1,000 years. Even if a beggar sees a piece of gold, they will never gain any nobility." Lieyun's aura changed. It gained a kind of sacred and divine presence to it. The flames surrounding him grew stronger. Long Chen knew that this pressure didn't belong to Lieyun but his ancestors. That manifestation behind him was very likely an inherited art in his family. This was a foundation. Long Chen truly didn't possess such a foundation. After all, Lieyun's inheritance stretched back an unknown number of millennia, while Long Chen had nothing. What about this is noble? Relying on the leftovers of your ancestors makes you a noble? To put it nicely, you inherited your ancestors' legacy, but putting it another way, you're dependent on your ancestors, bothering them day and night. The amount of wealth you can make in your lifetime is probably less than 1,000th of what you've squandered. Ignoring everything else, at least a beggar has to actually go begging to live. As for you, what have you done for your household? All you've done is hide at home for years, turning their wealth into human excrement. A vein throbbed on Lieyun's head. Long Chen's words were like arrows piercing his heart. He had no way to retort, as he had been hidden by the Flame Divine Palace all these years, cultivating within his family. It was just as Long Chen said, Lieyun had used an endless stream of resources. It was only through this enormous amount of resources that an expert like him had been born. Nonsense, I am the #1 genius of the Flame Divine Palace and its heir. I am Pill Valley's choice, and what I've created is a legend, an achievement that will shake the world, shouted Lieyun. The flames around him continued to grow stronger. You should stop trying to brag. If you want to even survive to leave the Yin-Yang world, you need to rely on your ancestors' protection. I won't be giving you a chance to create a legend, said Long Chen. Suddenly, the statue in Huoliehua's manifestation shook. The blazing rune on his forehead spread to cover his entire body, and all the flames grew explosively. The statue suddenly vanished, replaced by a gate. The gate slowly opened. Inside was a sea of flames. A pillar of fire soared out of Huoliehua's body. The surrounding space became a flame domain. The heavenly Daos roared as they were squeezed out of this area. This became a world of flames, and in this world Lieyun was king. A paragon art. It's a flame paragon art. Startled cries rang out. Only a paragon art could cause such a terrifying phenomenon. With a paragon art, who could fight him? Long Chen's definitely dead. This world of flames is Lieyun's. How is Long Chen supposed to face him? There's also that unending stream of flame energy coming from the gate behind him. Lieyun's energy is limitless. This place had become an isolated world, the domain of a paragon art, a world controlled by the user. Long Chen, show me just what you'll use to fight me. Having a powerful foundation is also a kind of power. A piece of trash like you without any background shouldn't exist in this world, shouted Lieyun, his seas of flame erupting. Long Chen was about to say a few things back when the ground shook, and a long ditch split the earth in two. It was like the earth was being torn asunder. Suddenly, a slim figure flew out of the earth. It was just a few miles from Long Chen. When he saw that figure, Long Chen was dumbfounded. It was Yi Lingshan. Yi Lingshan's current appearance was wretched. She was pale with terror. Upon seeing Long Chen, she shouted, "Run! Monsters are about to come out of the underground." Yi Lingshan had just appeared when she let out a shout. Surrounded by runes, she actually charged through the sea of flames. Long Chen was startled. Worried that she would be injured by Lieyun's flame domain, he grabbed her, enveloping her in his own flames to protect her. What's going on? Quick, there's no time to explain. Just at this moment, Lieyun, whose flame energy had reached a peak, threw a giant blazing flame spear at the two of them. However, at the same time, a furious roar came from beneath the ground. A giant figure larger than a mountain charged out. What the fuck? Long Chen's hair instantly stood on end. It was a giant ox-headed devil. Black chi swirled around its body as if it was a fiend from hell. Its aura gave him a bone-chilling feeling. He had no idea what Yi Lingshan had done to provoke such a beast. It was clearly after her. Long Chen hastily formed hand seals. His Yuan spirit lit up, chanting the Nirvana scripture. The flame energy of Lieyun's paragon art was suddenly under his control. Lieyun's expression changed. Long Chen had suddenly stripped away his flame energy. It was like there was a supreme will present. Although he had also mastered the Nirvana scripture, he had never imagined that it could possess such might. Having lost control of his own flames, he even lost connection to his own flame spear. He was about to resist with his own Nirvana scripture, but it was too late. His flame spear suddenly pierced toward the ox-head devil's head. Boom! The flame spear exploded. That was the strike of a paragon art, and it caused an immense explosion. However, that giant ox-head devil wasn't injured at all. Its head merely quivered for a moment, its movements becoming sluggish. It let out a furious roar. This attack seemed to have provoked it. Its body came charging out of the crack in the ground. Just standing there, half its body pierced the clouds. It suddenly smashed a fist at Lieyun. It viewed that spear attack as an attack from Lieyun. That was because of everyone present, Lieyun's aura was the strongest, and he had flames surging out of him. He became the ox-head devil's main target. Bastard! Lieyun was enraged. That attack had clearly been caused by Long Chen, but there was no way for him to explain that to this beast. It also wasn't giving him time to explain. Its punch was about to reach him, and it was an appalling attack. Flame Divine Wall. The flames around Lieyun transformed into countless dragons. They twined in front of him, forming a giant barrier. The Ox-Head Devil's punch instantly blew apart this powerful barrier. Flames roared in every direction. Run! Suddenly, the other experts noticed that the phantom blood locusts had vanished at some point. However, their fleeing speed wasn't as fast as the wave of flames. They were drowned in them. Some of the experts who weren't fast enough or weren't strong enough were instantly slain. Amongst these flames were some black runes that came from the Ox-Head Devil. The two kinds of power were clashing and were so powerful that even these elite Empyreans were unable to resist. Once the flame wave was past, there were over 70 Empyreans whose bodies had been destroyed. Amongst those, just over 10 were able to protect their Yuan spirits as they continued fleeing. Suddenly, the ox-headed devil smashed its own chest with its fists. An ear-piercing sound wave spread in every direction. Anyone who heard it felt their souls shudder in pain. Those who only had Yuan spirits left instantly exploded. This was actually a strange attack targeted toward Yuan spirits. Lieyun had been sent flying by the punch. As he had been the one who had borne the majority of its power, his body almost collapsed. He was furious. Just how did such a terrifying monster end up setting its sights on him? Summoning a pair of flame wings, he fled. If he continued fighting against such a beast, he really would be an idiot. Hey, what are you running for? Weren't you bragging about your legend just now? Bring out that prideful background of yours to fight against it. Long Chen had long since fled and was ahead of Lieyun. He didn't forget to turn back and mock him. Lieyun gnashed his teeth. His spear trembled. With almost no hesitation, he sent it stabbing toward Long Chen. "Ha, many thanks for sending me off." Long Chen laughed. Black flames flowed around Evil Moon as he slashed it into the flame spear. Long Chen was sent flying, and the speed at which he was flying shot up. Borrowing the force of Lieyun's blow, he increased the gap between them even more. As for Lieyun, his speed dropped as he faced the power of Long Chen's saber. The ox-headed devil behind him sent a palm crashing toward him. Lieyun's expression changed. He hastily blocked its attack again. As a result, he once more hacked up blood, his whole body almost exploding. However, he had learned from Long Chen and borrowed the force of this blow to flee. He had to get further from this terrifying monster, or he really might die here. Suddenly, the ground began to tear apart, and one giant figure after another crawled out. They were like fiends from hell. They began to slaughter the experts present. Only by personally facing these terrifying monsters did the experts learn just how strong they were. Even if they had time to activate their divine items, they couldn't block a single attack. They fled in every direction, terrified. But their speed was clearly too little too slow in the face of these ox-head devils. It was like this world had become hell. The ox-head devils were constantly slaying the experts. Even Empyreans appeared helpless in front of them. "What did you do to provoke such terrifying fellows?" demanded Long Chen as he pulled along Lingshan. Lightning circulated around them. He was forced to dodge the monsters as they continued to appear from underground. There were dozens of them now. He didn't dare to face them in battle, as he wasn't looking to be a masochist. Their power wasn't something that he could face. "I found a sealed copper plate underground. I didn't have time to figure out what it was before I was hunted down," answered Lingshan. She pulled out a fist-sized piece of copper. It was about the thickness of a chopstick and was covered in cracks. There were no fluctuations coming from it, and it looked like a piece of scrap metal. At first, I thought it was some supreme treasure. After all, it was sealed. I had to use a paragon art to break part of the formation to get it. But it doesn't seem like a treasure now. My luck is garbage. I almost got killed by these monsters. Lingshan shook her head with some lingering terror. She had clearly gone through a dangerous experience underground. For her to even live to escape was already the protection of the heavens. Long Chen was shocked upon seeing the copper plate. "What? Is it a treasure?" asked Yi Lingshan, surprised. Let's get out first. Long Chen put away the copper plate, but he was still shocked. He didn't recognize the copper plate itself, but he recognized its aura. That was the aura of the Eastern Wasteland Bell. There was no way that he was mistaken. Back then, the Eastern Wasteland Bell had been nourished in his spiritual space. It had been on the verge of collapse, and it was thanks to his spiritual nourishment that it hadn't been destroyed. Later on, it had unleashed a single blow in the branch Shintiandao sect of the Eastern Wasteland. It had defeated enemies that he hadn't been able to defeat himself, and after accomplishing its promise, it had vanished without a trace. In all the years since, he hadn't managed to learn anything about where it had gone. This tiny bit of copper was actually a portion of the Eastern Wasteland Bell. Back when he had seen it, it had been fragmented, with many missing parts. Unexpectedly, Yi Lingshan had actually managed to find one of those fragments. However, this fragment had no spirituality on its own, looking like garbage. Long Chen then placed it in his spiritual space in hopes that it could revive with the nourishment of his spiritual strength. The world was constantly shaking as the attacks of the Oxhead Devils slaughtered the experts present. Only a few managed to slip through them. The rest were annihilated. As for Long Chen's side, there were 3 of them. Long Chen had to repeatedly dodge their attacks. Several times they were almost struck by their palms. Yi Lingshan was pale with terror. Long Chen, maybe we should return the copper plate to them. It doesn't seem like they're willing to let us off. We can't. This copper plate is too important. We have to be able to bring it away. Don't worry, we'll reach the exit soon, said Long Chen as he pulled her away. He quickly saw the gate that he had come through. At this time, Lieyun came flying over from another direction. However, he was covered in blood and looked wretched. You go first. I'll eliminate him. Long Chen pushed Yi Lingshan into the gate. That was where they had entered from. Lieyun, do you want to make things more stimulating? Long Chen smiled upon seeing Yi Lingshan fly through the gate and vanish. He moved to block Lieyun's path, a black lotus slowly condensing in his hand. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.